Chapter 1951. Lady Wilson felt dizzy and was caught off guard by Gina's slap. She had never anticipated that after hurling so many insults at Gina, the latter would eventually retaliate in such a manner. To her surprise, it was her moment of vulnerability that triggered Gina's reaction. Despite lacking formal education, Gina proved to be a devoted daughter. Initially, Gina's mother had been coerced into taking poison. Upon learning of this, she had rushed back from her husband's home. At that time, her mother was gravely ill and in despair. In the hospital, Gina's mother, speaking weakly, expressed her desire to go home, feeling uncomfortable in the medical facility. Gina understood that her mother was nearing the end of her life. In her final moments, her mother's only wish was to save money for the family and avoid unnecessary treatments in the hospital. She wanted to return to her in-laws' house, to be cared for in her last days, surrounded by love. However, her mother-in-law vehemently opposed this plan. During a phone call, she warned Gina that if she dared to bring her mother home, Gina would be barred from entering the house herself. Gina's younger brother, fearful of his wife, also refused to allow their mother to stay with them, believing it to be bad luck to have her die in their home. Ultimately, Gina had no choice but to take her mother back to their old, abandoned house. In that house, Gina did her best to care for her mother, bathing her with warm water, dressing her in clean clothes, and preparing a bowl of yangchun noodles with eggs. After enjoying the meal, her mother held Gina's hand and contently said, "Good girl, Mom wants to sleep for a while," and then she never woke up. That day, Gina wept until she had no tears left. Following her mother's burial, Gina confronted her younger sister-in-law, resulting in her being sent to a detention center. It was her deep sense of filial piety that led her to feel sympathy for old Lady Wilson, while simultaneously harboring resentment towards Elaine for her ungratefulness. In general, Gina was seen as a rough, unrefined, and uneducated peasant woman who nonetheless held great respect for her deceased mother and an innate reverence for humanity. Despite her fiery temperament, she was not inherently malicious. While she could endure the insults hurled at her by Lady Wilson, any slight against her mother was intolerable. Lady Wilson's remark about dying in a better room to ensure a good baby in the next life struck a nerve, as it reminded Gina of her mother's passing in a dilapidated building. Gina always believed her mother was loyal and kind-hearted, despite living in poverty and facing hardship throughout her life. Tragically, her mother's fate was grim. She never experienced true happiness and was ultimately pushed to ruin by her daughter-in-law. Gina believed that even if her mother died in the worst possible conditions, God would see her goodness, and she would be reborn into a life filled with joy. However, Lady Wilson's words not only contradicted Gina's unwavering beliefs but also disrespected the sacred image of her mother that she held dear. Consequently, Gina could not contain her anger and struck Lady Wilson. At that moment, Lady Wilson, clutching her face, glared at Gina with resentment. Chapter 1952. Despite her deep frustration, Lady Wilson found herself unable to confront Gina. She summoned all her courage but ultimately held back. At that moment, Donald's subordinate spoke coldly, "We're here under Mr. Webb's orders to clear out the assets in this villa. Mr. Webb has instructed that aside from the permanently fixed items and major furniture like the bed and sofa, all other household appliances, valuable furnishings, and the fine wine stored in the basement must be removed, leaving nothing behind." Lady Wilson's heart sank upon hearing this. Initially, she had worried about lacking funds but had hoped to sell the household appliances, especially the wine in the basement, which could fetch at least $1 million. She never anticipated that someone as wealthy as Donald would go this far. Before she could devise a plan, his team had already discovered everything. With a bitter tone, Lady Wilson pleaded, "You can take the appliances and everything else, but please leave the wine for us. We enjoy having a drink occasionally." The leader sneered, "You're nearly out of resources, and you're still thinking about drinking? With that energy, you should focus on figuring out how to earn a living." After saying that, he instructed his team, "Start moving. Don't leave any valuables behind." "Understood." His subordinates quickly agreed and began rummaging through the villa. They even brought in a flatbed cart specifically for moving, loading it with all the valuables they could find and wheeling it out. Lady Wilson felt powerless to act. She could only watch as they stripped the villa bare. Not only did they take all the wine, but they also removed the television from the wall. To her dismay, they even cleared out the kitchen, taking away pots and utensils. Lady Wilson choked out, "Could you at least leave the cooking pots and pans?" The man replied coldly, "These kitchen tools were imported from Germany. Each pot costs tens of thousands of dollars. You'd probably sell them all within 2 days anyway." In tears, Lady Wilson protested, "No matter how I try, I can't sell a pot." The man sneered, "That's not our concern. If you want to cook, find a way to buy another pot." After checking each room to ensure no valuables were left, he instructed his men, "Load everything onto the truck." The subordinates filed out, and he turned to Gina, saying, "You'll be living here from now on. Mr. Webb has one requirement: you must not cause any trouble for Ms. Elaine next door. If you do, there will be no mercy." Gina nodded eagerly, "Don't worry, I won't trouble Elaine. Any issues with her in the past were due to Lady Wilson's ungratefulness, and I promise not to repeat that." Pleased, the man said, "Great. Don't you want the bedroom on the 3rd floor? Go grab it quickly, we need to leave." Gina replied excitedly, "Okay. I understand. You take care." Once the group left, Lady Wilson sat on the floor, weeping, "Oh my life, why is it so hard?" Wendy joined in, "Grandma, Donald is being too harsh. It feels like he wants to toy with us." Hannah interjected, "Mr. Webb might not intend to play games with us. Initially, he wanted to provide a few helpers for our family, but your grandma offended them right away. Now we have no support and 3 new adversaries." Furious, Lady Wilson snapped, "Hannah, you insolent girl. How dare you criticize me?" Hannah, fed up with Lady Wilson's arrogance, shot back, "You old crone, don't overstep. Do you really think you're still the Lady Wilson? You're broke now and acting like I owe you something." Chapter 1953. Lady Wilson was taken aback by Hannah's unexpected defiance. Hannah, who had always been subservient, was now bold enough to stand up to her. In that moment, Lady Wilson felt a surge of anger, but she held her tongue, realizing she was alone and felt like a deflated balloon. If only she had treated Gina better from the beginning, then the trio would have become loyal followers, and Hannah wouldn't dare to step out of line. Regrettably, her relationship with Gina and the others had soured. Offending Hannah again could leave her completely isolated. Frustrated, she snapped, "I don't want to argue with you. Let's just get Christopher back to his room and then move Harold in." Christopher, on the verge of tears, lamented, "Mom, you still remember me. I can't hold on any longer." Lady Wilson quickly replied, "Wendy, Hannah, please help Christopher back to his room so he can rest." The 2 women struggled to lift Christopher into the elevator. Wendy couldn't help but express her frustration to Gina, "Why aren't you 3 helping out? Are you just going to stand there?" Gina responded, seemingly unfazed, "When we first arrived, we truly wanted to assist your family, but your grandmother refused. Now, we are merely co-tenants, and it's not our obligation to help." Wendy retorted, "Can't you just lend a hand?" Gina shook her head, "Sorry, but that willingness is gone." She then turned to Lady Wilson, stating, "From now on, the biggest room on the 3rd floor is mine." Lady Wilson stood frozen, tears brimming in her eyes, but she dared not protest. Ultimately, it was her own mismanagement that brought her to this point, and she had to swallow her pride. Otherwise, Gina would certainly not relent. After issuing her ultimatum, Gina took Yadira and Samantha upstairs. The 3 generations of Wilson women found themselves working hard to move both Christopher and Harold to the 2nd floor. To care for the father and son, Wendy and Hannah relocated them to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, allowing them to share a bed. Lady Wilson's personal belongings had already been unceremoniously tossed out of the 3rd floor room by Gina. She had hoped to claim another room on the 3rd floor but discovered that the other spaces were occupied by the 2 other women. In their frustration, the Wilson family had no choice but to establish boundaries with the trio. Gina and her companions took residence on the 3rd floor, while Christopher and Harold occupied the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, with Wendy and Hannah in one of the 2nd bedrooms. Lady Wilson received the last 2nd bedroom. After a long day of moving, the family of 5 felt utterly exhausted and famished. Lady Wilson, keen for a meal, instructed Hannah, "Please whip something up quickly, I'm almost starving." Hannah, feeling overwhelmed, replied, "Seriously? Gina and the others can eat the ingredients that were prepared earlier. Donald's people took all the pots and pans, and we only have half a bag of rice left, even the rice cooker is gone. What do you expect me to cook with?" In desperation, Lady Wilson asked, "Is there nothing in the refrigerator? Even a few sticks of ham would do." Hannah snapped back, "Are you out of your mind? The refrigerator was taken away. How am I supposed to get you ham? Why don't you just give me some cash, and I'll go buy something?" Only then did Lady Wilson recall that Donald's people had indeed removed the refrigerator. This meant that the villa now offered no food at all. At that moment, Harold, feeling miserable, cried out, "Mom! I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten anything since we left." Chapter 1954. Hannah was overwhelmed with emotion as she gazed at her son's disheveled state. With tears in her eyes, she choked out, "Harold, I feel so helpless. There's nothing to eat at home, and the little money he managed to find has been taken by Donald's men. What do you want me to get you to eat?" Wendy, also in tears, replied, "Mom, I'll find a job tomorrow." Hannah nodded thoughtfully and said, "Finding a job is fine, but you must start tomorrow. Just remember, the paycheck won't come until next month. With the Chinese New Year approaching, we can't let our family go hungry." At that moment, Lady Wilson chimed in, "It's truly dire, but you should look for a part-time job. Go for something that pays daily." Wendy agreed, "It looks like that's our only option." Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, Gina was in a meeting with Yadira and Samantha. Their situation mirrored that of the Wilson family, but they faced an even bigger challenge: lack of funds. Gina addressed her companions, saying, "We're fortunate to be living in this spacious villa. As for meals, we'll need to find a solution ourselves." Samantha quickly responded, "Sister Gina, what do you propose? The Chinese New Year is just around the corner, and we need to prepare something. Even if we can't have a feast, we should at least make dumplings for dinner." Gina replied, "This is actually quite straightforward. I know several cleaning companies that specialize in residential cleaning. They pay around $20 an hour. If the 3 of us work together for 8 hours, we can each earn $100. That totals $500, and with the holiday season, service industry rates are higher. We could also find work at a bathhouse, which pays well. If we all put in the effort, we'll make enough to get by." Yadira quickly affirmed, "I'm on board. Even if I haven't had much education, I'm strong enough for the job." Samantha nodded enthusiastically, "We'll follow your lead, Sister Gina." Gina smiled and said, "Let's get to bed early tonight so we can search for work bright and early tomorrow." Next door in Villa A05, the atmosphere was quite different. Even with a cast on her leg, Elaine was in high spirits. The young couple, Charlie and Claire, were enjoying dinner together. Elaine had her leg propped up under the dining table, and as she ate, she scrolled through TikTok on her phone, looking relaxed. Seeing her, Jacob couldn't resist teasing her, "Elaine, you really are something else. You just broke your leg, and instead of complaining, you're sitting here on TikTok like everything's fine. This isn't the usual Elaine." Elaine shot him a glare and retorted, "What do you know? I've evolved. I've learned to be my own therapist." Charlie, curious, asked, "Mom, how exactly do you do that?" Elaine waved her hand dismissively, "It's simple. If I sit here dwelling on my injury, I'll just feel worse. The more I think about it, the more upset I get. I'd be furious that my leg isn't healing on its own, don't you agree?" Charlie nodded, "That makes sense." Elaine chuckled, adding, "So instead, I focus on missing Caroline." Charlie paused, confused, "Caroline? Isn't that Aunt Cynthia?" Elaine grinned and exclaimed, "I've realized how lucky I am. That con artist Caroline tried to get back at me, and not only did she fail, but I actually got to fight back. Not only did I stand my ground, but I also gave her a good thrashing. How impressive is that?" With a renewed spirit, Elaine continued, "Now that Caroline is behind bars, I don't have to worry about her seeking revenge anymore. Can you blame me for feeling joyful?" Claire, surprised, asked, "Mom, who is Caroline? Is she part of a pyramid scheme?" Realizing she had slipped up, Elaine quickly nodded, "Yes, exactly. Caroline is the mastermind behind that MLM scheme. What a despicable person." Chapter 1955. Charlie was in awe of Elaine's method for achieving spiritual victory, and at the same time, he felt a wave of relief wash over him due to the successful resolution of the situation. His main concern had been the possibility of Cynthia exposing his identity. After all, his aunt had a notoriously arrogant demeanor. He feared that in a moment of anger, she might let slip the truth about the Wade family's identity. Fortunately, Cynthia took an ill-fated approach right from the start. She handed Elaine a check for a staggering $100 million and demanded that she label her a liar immediately. The 4 words Citibank struck at Elaine's deepest wounds, prompting her to respond forcefully to Cynthia's attempt at a bribe. Reflecting on this, Charlie couldn't help but chuckle. His aunt, who had been a prominent figure in Eastcliff for years, could never have anticipated her downfall occurring in Orris Hill. And to top it off, it was entirely at Elaine's hands. Charlie thought to himself that this incident would surely serve as a valuable lesson for her. Just then, his phone buzzed with a WeChat message. Upon checking, he discovered it was a video from Don Albert. The thumbnail revealed a rundown small room, with his Aunt Cynthia appearing on screen, looking disheartened. Knowing that Don Albert must have taken care of her, Charlie quickly got up and headed to the bathroom to watch the video. The video began, and Don Albert's voice came through, "Master Wade, take a look at the room we've prepared for your aunt. It's located in the shanty town on the city's outskirts." The footage displayed a cramped room of less than 20 square meters, in a state of disrepair. It contained just a bed, a basic wardrobe, a desk, and a chair, nothing more. While the self-built dwelling was far from ideal, it did have the benefit of a separate bathroom for each unit, eliminating the need to share public toilets. However, the bathroom itself was quite unimpressive, small, worn, and dimly lit, featuring a very cheap squat toilet that was hardly functional. Cynthia stood in the middle of the room, visibly upset, exclaiming, "You show Charlie this? How can I possibly live in such a shabby place?" Don Albert, filming the scene, replied coolly, "Why not? Master Wade lived on construction sites for years under far worse conditions. If he can endure it, why can't you?" Cynthia, fuming, shot back, "Don't you dare compare me to him. I've lived for over 40 years without a single hardship." Don Albert scoffed, "Congratulations. Your 7-day dream tour is about to commence. Haven't you faced difficulty? Now you'll experience it all at once for the next week." He continued, "Master Wade, how do you find this environment? If you think it's still too comfortable, I can certainly find something even worse." Charlie couldn't help but laugh at this turn of events. Despite his youth, he had a keen understanding of human nature, gained from years of various encounters and experiences. He relished the idea of addressing wrongdoings at their roots. Take, for instance, Jordan from Weaver's Pharmaceuticals, who looked down on those like Liam's mother, who hailed from the Gollum Mountains, and wasted the lives of others. What was more despicable was that he brought lasting harm even after their passing. Such a person, rooted in wickedness, deserved a fitting punishment. For Charlie, seeing someone like him confined to the Gollum Mountains for eternity felt like the ideal consequence. It would also serve as the perfect means of atonement. Chapter 1956. Let me tell you about my aunt. She was born and raised in the grand mansion of Eastcliff, enjoying a life filled with luxury and privilege. Her demeanor has always been marked by arrogance and defiance. Given her attitude, the most fitting punishment would be to let her experience life's hardships, breaking her spirit in the process. Hence, Charlie communicated with Don Albert, "Don Albert, this environment is ideal, but you need to ensure your team monitors her around the clock. She must not be allowed to shop online or order takeout. If she attempts to make a purchase or order food, your team must intervene immediately and absolutely refuse her. For her daily meals, let your staff gauge her mood and buy her something from a local eatery, but remember, the daily food budget must never exceed $50. At that moment, in the makeshift neighborhood of the city, Don Albert played Charlie's message through his phone's speaker. Cynthia's expression darkened as she listened. Fuming, she exclaimed, "This is outrageous. You're preventing me from shopping online and ordering food?" Don Albert chuckled, "I'll make sure you can't order anything." "What's your problem with that?" Cynthia retorted, "I'm calling Charlie." Don Albert smirked and replied, "Based on what I know of Master Wade, if you call, your food allowance will likely decrease, not increase. You'll regret that call." Cynthia gritted her teeth, "You're just trying to scare me." With that, she pulled out her phone and dialed Charlie. When Charlie answered, Cynthia blurted out, "Charlie, this is too much. You've made me stay in Oris Hill for a week in this terrible place, and I can deal with that, but why restrict my online shopping and takeout? And how can I survive on a food budget of $50 a day? What if I end up malnourished? What if I get sick eating low-quality food?" Charlie replied with a slight grin, "Auntie, is Don Albert there with you? Put him on speaker, and I'll explain." Cynthia quickly activated the speakerphone, and Charlie addressed Don Albert, "Can you hear me?" Don Albert responded promptly, "Master Wade, I'm here. Just give me your orders." Charlie nodded and said, "My aunt's temper is still too fiery." He then sighed and continued, "Let's reduce her daily food allowance from $50 to $30. If she's still dissatisfied, we can lower it to $20 or even $10. If it comes to that, $5 a day will suffice, $2 for steamed buns, $1 for pickled mustard, and the remaining $2 for something else." Don Albert burst out laughing, "Understood, Master Wade." Cynthia felt utterly defeated, crying out, "Charlie, what are you doing? If you won't give me a little extra, why deduct $20? Charlie replied, "Auntie, I'm doing this for your own good. It's important for you to experience challenges and learn lessons before rejoining society. Your insincerity isn't helping. As the saying goes, heaven will bestow a heavy burden on those it wishes to help. First, you must endure hardship of mind and body. Since you're not taking this seriously, I'll have to intensify your lessons to guide you towards becoming a better person." Chapter 1957. Cynthia was taken aback to find that Don Albert's previous comments had turned out to be true. She had set out to uncover the conditions behind Charlie's favoritism, but to her surprise, not only did Charlie disregard her, he also slashed her daily food allowance from $50 down to $30. At that moment, Cynthia felt a wave of anguish similar to what Lady Wilson was experiencing. She thought to herself, "If I knew this would happen, why did I even bother pretending?" Don Albert looked at Cynthia, who was in tears, and smirked, "Didn't I tell you? I warned you that Master Wade would definitely reduce your food standards. Do you believe it now?" Cynthia felt the weight of his gaze and remained silent. She was too afraid to speak up again. Knowing she had already made so many mistakes, she feared that if she said anything more, she would end up eating nothing but steamed buns and pickles every day. Seeing her silent, Don Albert chuckled and said, "Ms. Wade is here to enjoy a luxurious stay for 7 days. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll take my leave now." Cynthia shot Don Albert a furious glare. As he exited the room, she couldn't hold back her tears any longer. Without hesitation, she grabbed her phone and initiated a video call to Lord Wade, the Master Wade, who was far away in Eastcliff. As soon as the call connected, Cynthia cried out, "Dad! Charlie, that scoundrel, has humiliated me in every way possible. Just look at what he's done to me." With that, she flipped her camera to show the chaotic scene in her room. Lord Wade was taken aback by Charlie's harsh treatment of his own aunt. He felt a sense of dissatisfaction at the difficult situation she was enduring. He sighed, saying, "Charlie has indeed gone too far. After all, you are his aunt." After a moment, he sighed again and stated, "However, Charlie is incredibly valuable to the Wade family. If he returns and marries into the Banks family, our family's power will surge significantly. If he can handle that Banks girl, it would be even better." As Lord Wade expressed his concerns, Cynthia recalled what Charlie had told her during their helicopter ride. He claimed to have taken down the 8 heavenly kings of the Webb family. He mentioned that Oren, who was gravely ill, had been revived because of him. He even hinted that a series of major events involving the three prominent families in Japan were orchestrated by him personally. Realizing this, Cynthia's heart raced, and she whispered to herself, "I can't let my father find out about these things. If he does, he will pay even more attention to that scoundrel Charlie. Cynthia, cannot allow him to return to the Wade family under any circumstances. Once he's back, I'll have no place in the Wade family." So, Cynthia quickly said, "Dad, I have to tell you the truth, Charlie is a cold-hearted creature. You think he belongs to the Wade family and want him back, but he doesn't care about family ties at all. If he can treat me, his aunt, this way, what do you think he'll do to the rest of the family if he feels even slightly slighted?" Lord Wade fell silent, caught off guard by her words. Cynthia's statements had made him wary. Everyone hopes for subordinates to be capable leaders, but the critical question remains whether they can keep their rivals in check. Chapter 1958. In Lord Wade's opinion, Charlie's actions today were rather excessive. Even if Cynthia approached her mother-in-law without permission, the initial mistake lay with Charlie. As Cynthia's nephew, he should not have treated his aunt this way. To make matters worse, he compelled his aunt to stay in Oris Hill shanty village for an entire week. This situation clearly indicates that the Wade family is attempting to bring Charlie under control, encouraging him to reconnect with his heritage and contribute to the family. This process will undoubtedly be more challenging than they anticipated. Thus, it is crucial not to rush this matter, as haste may lead to undesirable outcomes. Once Lord Wade grasped this, he spoke up, "Cynthia, ultimately, this situation began with your actions. While Charlie may have overstepped, it's not necessary to sever ties completely. Let's take a step back and revisit this issue later." Cynthia let out a quiet sigh of relief and quickly replied, "I understand, Dad. I won't be able to visit you during this time, especially not for the new year." Lord Wade smiled gently, "Those are minor concerns, don't worry. I'll be waiting for your return." "Okay." Cynthia nodded towards the camera, wiping away her tears. At that moment, Lord Wade's eldest son, Corin, rushed in, appearing somewhat anxious. "Dad, I have some news," he said. Lord Wade frowned and asked, "What news?" Corin explained, "I've learned that the Banks family is on a spree to recruit martial arts masters from across Asia, offering exorbitant salaries. They're paying tens of millions annually to an average martial artist. If they invest at this rate, it could exceed 10 billion in total. Many top fighters who have retired are contemplating a return." Lord Wade was taken aback. "What's prompting such a significant move?" Corin replied, "It's likely to quickly replenish their fighting strength in Japan. I heard that numerous masters from the Banks family are facing legal troubles with Japanese prosecutors, and it seems none of them will avoid prison." Lord Wade nodded, fully aware of how critical combat power is for a prominent family. The recent incident with the Banks family in Japan illustrated this well. Without their substantial reserve of fighters, it would have been impossible to dispatch nearly 100 martial artists to Japan overnight. Moreover, once these fighters set foot in Japan, they could effortlessly overpower the Matsumoto family, displaying a ferocity akin to a dragon overpowering a mere snake. These martial artists, unarmed and relying solely on their skills, can exhibit tremendous combat effectiveness. Provided they have a passport and visa, they can travel freely across countries, maintaining their combat readiness at all times. Such individuals serve as invaluable assets for large families engaging in overseas conflicts. While firearms are undeniably powerful, no family can transport armed personnel across borders. As a result, gun-wielding assassins face significant limitations. When tasked with overseas missions without weapons, they lose much of their effectiveness. In contrast, martial arts experts cultivated by top families can maintain their combat efficiency, even in nations with the strictest gun regulations. This is the essential strength of these masters. At this point, Corin added, "I also heard that Zara, the eldest daughter of the Banks family, has been on the hunt for a mysterious figure since her return from Japan. They've even covertly offered a reward of 1 billion for information about this individual." "Oh?" Lord Wade responded, intrigued. "What's this person's background? Are they an adversary of the Banks family?" Not at all, Corin replied. It seems this person is actually Zara and Fitz's savior. Chapter 1959. Fitz's savior? Upon hearing this, Elder Wade's eyes widened in surprise. Is this the mysterious individual I mentioned earlier? Exactly. Corin affirmed. There were rumors that Zara and her brother were rescued by an enigmatic figure while they were in Japan. Elder Wade inquired further, so this mysterious savior helped the siblings in Japan, and now Zara, along with the Banks family, is searching for him in China. Could this mysterious man be from China? Corin responded, it seems that way. Otherwise, why would the Banks family seek a mysterious figure from Japan? Isn't that like hunting for a needle in a haystack? Elder Wade suddenly felt a surge of excitement. With enthusiasm, he exclaimed, regardless of who this mysterious person is, one thing is clear, their strength is beyond our comprehension, perhaps even extraordinary. Absolutely. Corin sighed. This individual managed to defeat multiple IGA ninjas single-handedly to save Zara and Fitz. Their power is undoubtedly remarkable. Elder Wade exclaimed, if such talent could be harnessed by the Wade family, our future would be nothing to fear. He then instructed Corin, quickly, you must order our team to closely monitor the Banks family's actions and do everything possible to locate this mysterious person before they do. If we can't find him first, we must at least try to attract him to our Wade family. Corin nodded. Understood, Dad. Meanwhile, Cynthia, who had remained silent during the video call, wore an odd expression. She suddenly recalled something Charlie had told her previously. Could it be that the mysterious person the Banks family was after was him? This thought sent a shiver down her spine. If Charlie truly was that enigmatic figure, then she could not allow him to return to the Wade household. Being of Wade lineage and having a marriage contract with Miss Banks's family, those two advantages were enough for Charlie to secure a high status within the Wade family. If he also held the identity of this mysterious master, he would be unstoppable. At that point, she would surely be cast out of the Wade family. Just as Corin was absorbed in thought, Lord Wade gave him his orders. Noticing Cynthia's unusual expression, he asked in surprise, Cynthia, what's bothering you? Cynthia quickly replied, oh, Dad, I'm fine. I was just lost in thought. Lord Wade nodded, sighing. Once you've settled in, make sure to get some rest. Stay in Oris Hill for a few days, and I'll come pick you up when you return. Cynthia responded promptly, thank you, Dad. I understand. After the video call ended, Cynthia couldn't shake off her fear. At that moment, she felt a deep sense of regret. I shouldn't have come to Oris Hill and waded into these troubled waters. Before arriving, I never imagined Charlie would be such a formidable opponent, let alone that his nephew seemed to possess exceptional hidden talents. If she had foreseen this, she would have done anything to avoid this situation. Before her arrival, Cynthia did not view Charlie as an adversary. She believed him to be merely a remnant of the Wade family, someone she could easily dismiss. Additionally, she thought that once he returned, he would only serve as a figurehead for the family and pose no real threat to her. However, upon reaching Oris Hill, she realized that her nephew, whom she hadn't seen in over a decade, was as formidable as her second brother. At that moment, Cynthia thought bitterly, if Charlie were just like my second brother, it wouldn't be as troubling. What's more alarming is that while my second brother was a scholar with a strong will, he lacked physical prowess. But Charlie? Not only is he tough, but he's also a force to be reckoned with. Chapter 1960. It looks like in the future, I should keep my distance from him as much as I can. I must ensure he doesn't get the chance to return to the Wade family. At this moment, Eastcliff, Banks family. Zara was seated in front of her computer in the study, sifting through information collected from across the country. Ever since her return from Japan, Charlie had occupied her thoughts, whether she was awake or asleep. Her days had been plagued with sleeplessness and a lack of appetite, all thanks to Charlie. Yet, she kept her feelings to herself, not sharing them with her brother or her mother. Initially, she had aimed to channel her energy into locating the enigmatic individual who had rescued her so she could express her gratitude in person. However, after several fruitless days of searching, she found no valuable leads. Following this, in a bid to swiftly restore the Banks family's strength, Grandpa Banks resolved to tirelessly seek out a new group of masters. Zara eagerly recommended the mysterious figure to her grandfather, asserting that if the Banks family could locate this person, they would gain a formidable ally capable of turning the tide against any opponent, vastly enhancing their striking power. Lord Banks was thrilled and immediately tasked Zara with finding this elusive man at any cost. Unfortunately, information about the mysterious individual remained elusive. The Banks family's informants had reached out through various channels in both China and Japan, but no one had any knowledge of such a powerful expert. Among martial arts masters, there exists a comprehensive roster, featuring top experts who are well known and have notable backgrounds. However, since Charlie was not affiliated with the martial arts community, he was completely unknown to them. This made it significantly more challenging for martial artists to uncover any relevant information about him. Moreover, currently, there were very few martial arts masters who matched the kind of strength Zara had described. Domestic martial artists were not any weaker than Japanese ninjas, and some could even surpass them in strength, but there was truly no one who could confront several ninjas and emerge entirely unscathed. As Zara's fruitless search continued, she decided to request all recent entry and exit records from Japanese customs, hoping to filter them by nationality and approximate age group. However, due to the Banks family's involvement in a violent incident in Japan, the Japanese Homeland Security Department had significantly tightened customs controls. Previously, the Banks family could easily access entry and exit records for all of Japan, but now, even after exhausting their resources, they couldn't retrieve the slightest information. Zara speculated whether the mysterious master might be of Chinese descent living in Japan, as he could be absent from the immigration records. Yet, unwilling to remain stagnant, she resolved to focus her efforts domestically. While hunting for clues about the mysterious individual in China, she also sought to penetrate Japan's layers of oversight to obtain entry, exit, and even immigration records as soon as possible. Nonetheless, Japan's data blockade proved to be quite stringent, making it challenging to break through in the short term. Just as she felt stuck, a close female friend from Japan called her, saying, "Zara, although I can't access entry and exit information or immigration records from Japan right now, I have found an alternative approach. Whether it works depends on your patience." Zara quickly replied, "Please share your idea. I have all the patience in the world. Even if it's like searching for a needle in a haystack, I will find him." The friend chuckled and said, "Exactly. Although the Japanese Homeland Security Department has blocked customs records, they haven't blocked the airport video surveillance. Besides submitting it to customs, I've kept a copy of all the airport surveillance footage. There's a way to get you access to it. If you're willing to sift through countless surveillance videos from several airports, you might just find a clue about your lifesaver." Chapter 1961. Zara understood that entry and exit records were private customs documents, unlike airport surveillance footage, which was accessible for review. She pondered to herself, if he flew back home from Japan, he couldn't have avoided the monitoring cameras at the Japanese airports. If I analyze the footage closely, I should be able to trace him. However, this task might be quite overwhelming. Moreover, only my elder brother and I have met my benefactor, so I'll probably need to enlist his help. Others won't be able to assist, even if they want to. With this in mind, Zara knew the odds were slim, yet she was not ready to give up. She promptly requested, "Please obtain the footage as soon as possible and send it to me via the Banks family's secured network." Transmitting large amounts of data could be quite challenging. Using a standard network to send surveillance videos from multiple airports, covering numerous cameras over several days, could take months, if not longer. In contrast, the Banks family, being a top-tier family, possessed its own exclusive network and robust data servers, allowing for rapid transfers that could be completed in just 1 or 2 days. The person on the other end quickly agreed, stating, "I'll have someone organize the footage and begin sending it to you tomorrow." Then, she felt compelled to remind Zara, with such an extensive amount of surveillance footage, it may take quite a while to review everything. If your savior doesn't return from Japan after all, everything you put into this effort may be in vain. You might miss your lifesaver among millions of travelers, so before you dive in, you should really think it through." Zara smiled softly, saying, "These challenges are nothing. Even if it takes me a year to sift through the surveillance footage, I will stay committed." The other party sighed, seemingly resigned, and remarked, "Ah, that's the Zara I know. Your relentless energy in pursuing your goals is something I could never replicate." Zara chuckled in response, "That's because you haven't faced anything that would drive you to persist like I do. If you did, you'd be just like me." The other person laughed and teased, "What? You think your lifesaver is some kind of Prince Charming?" Zara replied with a grin, "Prince Charming is just a knight on a horse. My lifesaver is far superior to that." "TSK TSK TSK," the other party exclaimed, clearly amused. "Then I wish you the best in finding your savior soon, and maybe you'll even resolve some major relationship matters while you're at it. If that's the case, then pursuing this leads to a win-win situation, doesn't it?" Zara felt her cheeks flush as she retorted, "What are you talking about? I just want to find my savior and thank him personally." "I don't believe you," her friend laughed. "If it were merely to express gratitude, didn't you already say thank you when he saved you?" Zara hesitated before replying, "Well, what I said back then. If you thanked him then, why go through the trouble of tracking him down now? Is it really just to say thanks again?" Feeling slightly embarrassed, Zara confessed, "Actually, it's not just about saying thank you. My family is also looking for top-tier experts to collaborate with, and I see this as a perfect opportunity to achieve both goals. Not only can I express my gratitude, but I can also facilitate a potential partnership for my family." The other party chuckled, stating, "If that's your plan, you'll be hitting 3 birds with 1 stone. You can express gratitude, foster family collaboration, and potentially secure a great son-in-law for your family." Zara's cheeks turned even redder, and she protested, "You really can't expect anything wise from you. I won't waste any more time with you. Just get me the information and prepare everything so I can start my screening." Finally, the teasing came to an end. The other person replied earnestly, "I'll get everything arranged, but remember that today is the 28th of the Chinese New Year, and tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Your family has many traditions during this time. Will you be able to manage?" Zara assured, "If it's too hectic, I'll just have to deal with it. Please make sure to prepare everything for me as soon as possible. Don't delay." "Got it, I understand." Chapter 1962. Charlie was unaware that Zara was doing everything in her power to locate him at this moment. His attention was fully directed toward preparing for the upcoming New Year celebrations. This spring festival held special significance for Charlie, as it was the first one he anticipated since the passing of his parents. In years past, the celebrations had been difficult for him. The spring festival felt just like any other day. Instead of enjoying the warmth of family, he often felt a deep sadness while witnessing others rejoice with their loved ones. Following his marriage to Claire, Charlie had lost interest in celebrating the Chinese New Year. Previously, the Wilson family would gather to celebrate, and Charlie often found himself the target of their jibes, enduring humiliation during the New Year's Eve dinner. However, this year promised to be different, making it the spring festival Charlie had longed for since his parents' demise. Bright and early the next morning, it was New Year's Eve. Charlie and his family gathered around the dining table. He presented a list of items to purchase to his wife and father-in-law, allowing for adjustments based on their feedback until they arrived at a final version. Due to Elaine's leg injury, and with Claire determined to finish her work before the holiday, Charlie and Jacob took on the role of shoppers. After breakfast, Jacob and his son-in-law prepared to head out to the supermarket together. As Claire finished her meal, she stood up and announced, "Husband, Dad, and Mom, I need to go to the office. Today is the last working day before the holiday, and I must wrap up some ongoing projects and hold a meeting to distribute New Year red envelopes." Elaine chimed in, "What red envelopes? Haven't they already been paid?" Claire replied sincerely, "Everyone has put in a lot of effort on their projects. How could we not give them a red envelope at the end of the year? It's not just red envelopes, we also have year-end bonuses to distribute." Elaine, feeling frustrated, responded, "This money is clearly something we could save. Why send it to outsiders? I really don't understand." At that moment, Charlie interjected, "Mom, the success of the company depends on our employees' hard work. If the boss doesn't acknowledge their efforts during the new year, it could leave them feeling unappreciated. If they decide to resign after the holidays, the company would be in trouble." Jacob also weighed in, "My son-in-law makes a good point. If you want to be a boss, you need to be tough about these things." Elaine shot back, "Jacob, you just love to talk. Try saying that again, and I might just scratch your old face with my bad leg." Jacob recoiled slightly and retorted, "I don't want to argue with you." Claire shook her head helplessly and said, "All right, Dad, go shopping with Charlie. I need to get to work too." "Sure," Jacob nodded. "You go ahead, and we'll leave shortly." Just then, the doorbell rang. Jacob checked the video intercom and saw several well-dressed middle-aged men standing outside. The leader, Don Albert, spoke up respectfully, "Is Master Wade at home?" Alongside him were Isaac Cameron, Mr. Quinton, Mr. White, and Liam. There appeared to be a few more individuals in the background, but Jacob couldn't see them clearly, just a mix of men and women of various ages. He quickly turned to Charlie and said, "My son-in-law, it looks like quite a few distinguished guests have come to see you." Chapter 1963. Charlie had just heard Don Albert's voice coming through the intercom. He was taken aback that Don Albert would arrive at his house at this hour, and from the tone of the old man's words, it seemed he wasn't the only one feeling this way. He stood up and said, "Dad, I'll go answer the door." Claire looked at him in astonishment and asked, "Charlie, do you think it could be the important figures coming to consult you about feng shui?" Charlie chuckled and replied, "It must be them. They're the only ones who call me Master Wade." Claire shook her head in mock dismay and joked, "Master Wade? More like Trickster Wade, if you ask me. They're almost the same." Charlie raised an eyebrow and said, "Convincing others can be quite a skill, you know." With that, he stepped out and made his way through the courtyard to the front door. When he opened the door, he was taken aback by the scene that unfolded before him. Standing at the door were not just Don Albert, Isaac Cameron, Mr. Quinton, Mr. White, and Liam. Mr. Quinton had also brought along Aurora and Stephen Quinton. Mr. White was accompanied by Gerald White and Fred White. The red-faced old man Moore had surprisingly come with Jasmine and Reuben. Dr. Simmons, the radiant elder, also had his granddaughter Zyla beside him. Even Travis Lane, the wealthiest man in Lancaster, had shown up with Charlie's close friend Caleb from the orphanage. Caleb, now Travis Lane's driver and assistant earning millions annually, had become a favorite among Travis's associates. With such a large group, they had driven dozens of cars, both big and small, lining the streets outside Thompson First A05. Before Charlie could fully process the situation, everyone simultaneously clasped their fists and greeted him with respect. "Hello, Master Wade." The chorus of voices stunned everyone in the villa area. Many residents stepped out onto their terraces to see what was happening. Upon witnessing the collection of high-end luxury vehicles and the assembly of prominent figures from Orris Hill and Lancaster at the entrance of Villa A05, they were utterly amazed. At that moment, Lady Wilson, who had been feeling famished all night, rushed to the second-floor terrace. The terrace was connected to the room where Christopher and Harold were staying. Wendy and Hannah were also present, tending to them. The two had already stepped out to investigate the commotion before Lady Wilson could arrive. When they saw the crowd of influential people at Charlie's doorstep, Wendy and Hannah's expressions turned grim. Just then, Lady Wilson joined them, bewildered, and asked, "Why are there so many cars? What's going on?" Hannah responded with a hint of bitterness, "Can't you see? They've all come to pay New Year's respects to Charlie. Many of them are important figures. I just spotted the Moore family patriarch and Travis Lane, the richest man in Lancaster." Wendy, with red-rimmed eyes, added, "I saw Mr. White. And there's brother Gerald." Gerald White, in the early days, had been Wendy's fiancé. At that time, Charlie was still looked down upon, while Gerald White was seen as the promising future son-in-law of the Wilson family. Wendy had been on the verge of marrying into the White family, which had boosted her confidence immensely. However, shortly after, Mr. White, the head of the White family, had abruptly nullified the marriage contract with Wendy. Chapter 1964. Despite being with Gerald White for several desperate years and carrying his child, Wendy found herself abandoned by him. Afterward, Wendy became the mistress and plaything of Kenneth Wilson and Jeffrey Weaver. Unfortunately, this led her to face numerous hardships and tarnished her reputation instead of bringing her any benefits. Now, Wendy's situation was even more disheartening. Although she resided in the opulent Thompson First Villa, she spent nights hungry, lacking even enough money for breakfast. Encountering Gerald White again brought a flood of memories to Wendy's mind, making her heartache even worse. Tears welled up in Wendy's eyes, and soon, they began to stream down her cheeks. With a choked voice, she lamented, "Brother Gerald, why didn't you want me? Brother Gerald, what did I do wrong that made you leave so easily? Brother Gerald." At this point, Wendy was in tears. Seeing her daughter so distraught, Hannah felt a deep sorrow in her heart. She embraced Wendy gently and reassured her, "Wendy, trust me, you will definitely find a better man than Gerald White in the future." Wendy sobbed in response, "How could that be possible? My reputation is completely ruined now. People only talk about me to mock me, saying I wasn't devoted enough, that I ended up with Kenneth Wilson, a man older than my father. After he was done with me, he tossed me aside to Jeffrey Weaver." After saying this, Wendy turned her gaze toward Lady Wilson with fury and exclaimed, "This is all your fault. It's all because of you. You pressured me to seduce Kenneth Wilson. If it weren't for you, my reputation wouldn't be in shambles. If not for you, Brother Gerald and I might still have had a chance. You ruined my life." Lady Wilson was taken aback by Wendy's furious outburst, instinctively stepping back as she replied, "How can you blame me? Didn't you agree to be with Kenneth Wilson?" Wendy retorted angrily, "That's nonsense. If you hadn't forced me, I would never have agreed. You wanted to use Kenneth Wilson for investment. You were ready to sell my body for wealth and prosperity." Lady Wilson shot back, "Wendy, you need to be honest. Can I be the only one to benefit from this?" She then pointed at Hannah, saying angrily, "Let's not forget that Kenneth Wilson gave you $5 million at the beginning, which ultimately benefited your parents. If we're assigning blame for exchanging your body for wealth, let's include your parents in that as well." Hannah's expression darkened at those words. Although Lady Wilson's comments were harsh, they contained a painful truth. Initially, everyone, Lady Wilson, Hannah, and Christopher, had been drawn to Kenneth Wilson's wealth and capabilities. Consequently, they persuaded Wendy to enter Kenneth Wilson's room late at night, and it wasn't a complete force, it was more of a half-hearted push. At that time, Wendy had just broken up with Gerald White, and with her family's financial situation worsening, she was dissatisfied with her impoverished life. Thus, her relationship with Kenneth Wilson was partly driven by her own vanity. Wendy felt a blush of shame as she realized the truth. Everyone shared the responsibility, including herself. As the saying goes, in an avalanche, no snowflake is innocent. With that thought, she lost the will to continue arguing with Lady Wilson and sank to the ground in tears. Lady Wilson ignored her, instead focusing on the lavish car parked outside Charlie's house, surrounded by a crowd of influential people, which filled her with despair. Hannah felt a similar bitterness. She recalled how Charlie had sent her to the coal kiln, fueling her anger further. She gritted her teeth and cursed, "Isn't Charlie just a fraud? What the heck? Master Wade, master of his grandmother. How can so many important people be fooled by him? Are they really that blind?" With a heavy sigh, Lady Wilson expressed her deep regret and despair, stating, "Oh, if only I had known Charlie would achieve such success, I wouldn't have driven the family away back then. What was I thinking? How blind I was." Chapter 1965. At the moment, we find ourselves at the entrance of Villa A05. Charlie surveyed the gathering crowd and, with a hint of surprise, inquired, "What brings you all here?" Don Albert, with a warm smile, replied, "Master Wade, the Chinese New Year is just around the corner. Everyone thought it would be nice to come by in advance and bring you some New Year gifts." Isaac Cameron nodded in agreement, adding, "Master Wade, we were concerned that taking turns might take up too much of your time, so we decided to come together instead. Mr. Quinton chimed in, Master Wade, we all have prepared a few small tokens for you, and we hope they meet your approval. Absolutely. Mr. White interjected quickly, Master Wade, you possess great powers. We are just ordinary folks, and if our humble gifts don't meet your standards, please don't take offense. Charlie smiled gently and replied, I truly appreciate that you remember me. Your kindness is enough, there's no need to spend money on me. At that moment, Lord Moore stepped forward and said earnestly, Master Wade, you have shown us incredible generosity. With the Chinese New Year approaching, it's only right that we pay you a visit. Charlie clasped his hands together in acknowledgement, saying, Master Moore, your sentiments are much appreciated. Jasmine, standing beside Lord Moore, wore a stunning Chinese-style cheongsam jacket that perfectly highlighted her figure and feminine grace. Having not seen Charlie for several days, Jasmine felt a deep longing for him. When their eyes met, her cheeks flushed with warmth. Memories of their first kiss in the car flooded her mind, intensifying her blush. To distract herself, she hurriedly exclaimed, Master Wade, Jasmine wishes you a happy new year in advance. Aurora, eager to join in, said, Master Wade, Coach Wade, Aurora also wishes you a happy new year in advance and hopes the new year brings you all the best. Zyla quickly added, Master Wade. Zyla also wishes you a happy new year. Jasmine realized then that the two young girls were also connected to Charlie. She couldn't help but sigh inwardly, knowing how difficult it is to have feelings for a man like Charlie, who is already taken. It seemed these two girls were experiencing the same heartache. With a bright smile, Charlie expressed his gratitude to each of the three ladies. Shortly after, Travis Lane arrived with Caleb in tow. Travis placed his hands together in a respectful gesture and said, Master Wade, ever since I took your rejuvenation pill, my health has improved tremendously. I'm truly grateful to you. Charlie smiled softly, responding, Mr. Lane, there's no need for such formality, you took the pill with your own willpower, so the credit belongs to you. When Caleb laid eyes on Charlie, he was overwhelmed. Since Charlie had introduced himself to Travis Lane as merely a driver and assistant, Caleb had come to understand that Charlie was anything but ordinary. However, he never anticipated the extent of Charlie's remarkable strength. The fact that his boss had traveled all the way to Oris Hill to deliver a New Year gift to Charlie left Caleb astonished. Upon arriving, he was even more taken aback by the impressive gathering. In Oris Hill, he recognized many prominent figures, and witnessing their humility before Charlie was truly staggering. This overwhelming sight made Caleb a bit anxious when addressing Charlie. Charlie turned to Caleb with a smile and asked, Caleb, how have things been for you lately? Chapter 1966. Caleb spoke quickly, saying, Master Wade, everything has been going well for me lately. I truly appreciate you and Mr. Lane for looking out for me. Upon hearing this, Charlie's demeanor shifted to seriousness as he replied, Caleb, everyone here can call me Master Wade, but that doesn't apply to you. Caleb responded awkwardly, Wade. With so many people, including Mr. Lane, showing you such respect, how can I be an exception? Charlie approached him, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder, and said earnestly, Caleb, they refer to me as Master Wade because I've helped them in some way. But you, Caleb, are different. Caleb quickly replied, I owe my current situation to your help. The support you've given me has been monumental, and I feel I should respect you even more than others. Charlie, with a hint of displeasure, said, Stop joking around. We grew up together in the orphanage. Though we weren't born from the same mother, we've always been like brothers. Over the years, we've supported each other, faced challenges together, and shared in each other's struggles. My help to you was simply what brothers do for one another. Why are you being so formal with me? Caleb was filled with a mix of shame and gratitude at Charlie's words. He thought, I've always feared I wouldn't measure up to Charlie, which made me overly formal and distant. But Charlie has always seen me as a brother. If I continue to treat him with such formality, he will surely feel uncomfortable. With this realization, Caleb looked intently and said, Charlie, brother, I understand now. Thank you. Charlie smiled slightly and nodded, that's the spirit. If you call me Master Wade again, I will end our friendship right here. Caleb quickly assured him, Charlie, don't worry. I will never call you Master Wade again. To me, you are simply my brother for life. Charlie nodded with satisfaction, saying, I'm so happy to have you in my life. At that moment, Jacob and Claire stepped outside. Realizing that Charlie's clients were visiting, they felt the need to be good hosts, so they quickly tidied up the living room and invited their guests to sit for a while. However, when they emerged, they were taken aback to see many more guests than they anticipated. What was even more surprising was that most of these guests were among the most influential people in Oris Hill. When Claire spotted Jasmine, she felt a wave of insecurity wash over her. Knowing Jasmine was present, she had rushed to apply makeup before joining the gathering. Normally, Claire went out without any makeup and didn't focus much on her attire, and today was no exception. Standing next to the beautifully dressed Jasmine, she suddenly felt somewhat outshone. Jacob, aware of his son-in-law's capabilities and the stature of his clients, felt unfazed by the impressive crowd. However, when he spotted Dr. Simmons, he quickly approached him with respect, saying, "Oh, genius Dr. Simmons. It's wonderful to see you. I should have come down to greet you for the new year." Dr. Simmons felt a bit awkward because he knew well that the miraculous recovery from Jacob's severe paraplegia was due to Charlie's extraordinary medicine, not his own efforts. Thus, Jacob's high regard for him made Dr. Simmons feel embarrassed, prompting him to reply, "Mr. Wilson, you are too kind. Master Wade deserves all the credit, and I should visit him next time." Just then, Don Albert approached Jacob, giving him a friendly hug and bowing slightly, saying, "Hello, Mr. Wilson. Don Albert here, wishing you an early Happy New Year." Having met Don Albert several times at Heaven Springs, Jacob felt comfortable and smiled back, "You're too polite, Don Albert. I wish you a Happy New Year as well." Don Albert looked flattered and replied, "Please, just call me Albert. When you talk to me, I prefer you call me Albert." Jacob felt a surge of pride, thinking, "Wow, my status has really elevated. Even the underground king of Oris Hill, Don Albert, treats me with such respect. This is truly incredible. If word gets out about all these prominent figures visiting today, people will be utterly amazed." Chapter 1967. To ensure the guests felt welcomed, Charlie decided to invite everyone inside the villa. In a flurry, the attendees instructed their companions to retrieve the gifts they had prepared from their cars. Soon, a line of at least 20 or 30 people appeared, each carrying luxurious gift boxes as they entered the villa. Nearby, Lady Wilson from Villa A04 stared in disbelief, murmuring, "This isn't just an ordinary gift-giving event. It's as if officials from ancient times are lined up to pay homage to an emperor." Hannah felt a wave of discomfort wash over her. This crowd is incredibly wealthy. Can you imagine the total value of their gifts? It must be close to 100 million. Wendy, with tears in her eyes, lamented, "I fear we can't even stop at 100 million. Just look at Mr. White, he gave away a villa worth over 100 million. "Oh dear," Lady Wilson remarked, her expression pained. "I can't take it anymore. If I keep watching, I might just have a heart attack." With that, she turned and retreated into the house. Hannah, frustrated, remarked, "I'm going to keep watching, regardless." Wendy remained silent, her unease growing as she noticed Gerald White following Mr. White into Charlie's villa. Meanwhile, Harold lay on the bed, wailing, "Mom. Grandma, if I don't get something to eat soon, I'm going to starve. You can't just leave me here, injured and hungry. Donald's men didn't finish us off, but it seems we're doomed to starve at home." Lady Wilson quickly responded, "Wendy, didn't you say you were going out to find a job today? You need to go out and look." She then turned to Hannah and insisted, "Hannah, you have to find work to help support the family." Hannah nodded, a hint of anger in her voice as she replied, "I can go, but this house can't sustain idlers. If I'm going, you have to go too." "Me?" Lady Wilson stammered in disbelief, her voice rising in anger. "I'm too old for this. You want me to go find a job?" Hannah shot back, "Why not? What's so special about being older? Do you think that means you don't need to eat? If that's the case, just open the window in the north bedroom and wait for the wind to feed you. You're ridiculous. Lady Wilson fumed. I'm old, and you expect me to go without food? You're trying to push me to my limit. With a stern expression, Hannah replied, our situation is dire. Everyone needs to contribute to the household. Christopher and Harold are currently injured, so they can be excused for now, but you can't. Lady Wilson retorted, it's disgraceful. I'm so old, and you're forcing me to work. Why did our Wilson family even marry you? You're a heartless daughter-in-law. God must have plans to punish you. Hannah smiled coldly, I'm not going to argue with you. If you refuse to work, I won't be able to support you. You're on your own. Lady Wilson, realizing the gravity of their situation, said sheepishly, we can't all leave to work. Someone needs to stay home to look after Christopher and Harold. Hannah replied, you're the least capable of caring for them right now. They're bedridden, and you can't even help them turn over. What's the point of you staying? She then looked at Wendy and proposed, Wendy, why don't you stay and look after your dad and brother while I take your grandmother job hunting? Wendy nodded quietly, all right. At that moment, Charlie was at home. Elaine, with her leg in a cast, was left speechless as she took in the scene before her. Chapter 1968. The tall man arrived at the house without uttering a word, yet an array of gifts began to accumulate like a mountain in the living room. Her excitement was palpable, a grin nearly stretching from ear to ear, as she yearned to tear into each gift one by one. However, with so many adults around, she felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her. As Charlie's most dedicated subordinate and the mastermind behind this grand visit, Don Albert pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and announced, Master Wade, I have a gift list right here. Let me share it with you. Before Charlie could respond, Elaine chimed in eagerly, oh, please read it. Read it out loud. Don Albert quickly replied, Ms. Elaine, don't worry, I'll make sure to speak loudly. He then cleared his throat and declared. From Shangri-La, Isaac Cameron is gifting Master Wade a set of Banshan Hot Spring Resort villas, located in the Champs Ellis Hot Spring Hotel, valued at $80 million. This announcement left Elaine momentarily speechless. Inside, Elaine couldn't help but exclaim with delight, oh my goodness! A set of hot spring villas worth $80 million. This is incredible. I can't wait to visit the Champs tonight and enjoy that luxurious hot spring villa. But then, Elaine glanced down at her leg, remembering her cast. She muttered to herself, I still have this cast, so soaking in the hot spring might have to wait. But that's okay, I won't rush it. The Champs Ellis Hot Springs will still be there when my leg heals. The Champs Ellis Spa Hotel is owned by Shangri-La and was specifically recommended by Laureen for Charlie and Claire to visit. It is renowned as the premier hot spring hotel in Oris Hill, and even throughout the province. The expansive Champs Ellis Spa sprawls across a large area, with the property extending from the foothills to the mountainside. Alongside the hot spring hotel, there are several exclusive hot spring villas that are not available for purchase. These villas, nestled amidst the mountains, boast stunning views, exquisite architecture, and lavish interiors. Most notably, they feature natural hot springs that flow year-round. The only downside is the remote location. The natural hot springs are often tied to the geography, and since the entire Champs Ellis Hot Spring Hotel is situated in the mountains, it is quite a distance from the city, making it more suitable for vacations rather than long-term living. Claire and Jacob were equally taken aback by such a lavish gift, left speechless in amazement. Isaac Cameron then added, Master Wade, the hot spring villa gifted to you has always been a non-sale item at the Champs Ellis Hot Spring Hotel and is not open to guests. The hot springs there are rich in minerals and provide numerous health benefits. In the future, you can frequently take vacations with your loved ones, and your uncles and aunts can enjoy some relaxation time as well. If you don't visit often, our professional housekeeper will ensure the villa is well maintained and spotless. Isaac further continued, the keys, real estate certificate, and all related documents are included in the gift box. Master Wade, please accept this gift. Charlie nodded, a slight smile on his face. Isaac always puts in great thought. In truth, Charlie didn't find the value of these multi-million hot spring villas to be excessive, especially considering Isaac Cameron's own wealth. Claire, feeling a bit anxious, whispered in Charlie's ear, "Husband, how can we possibly accept such an extravagant gift?" Charlie waved his hand dismissively and replied, "My dear wife, don't worry about this. If I accept their gift, I will certainly find a way to repay them in the future." Don Albert then looked at Charlie and respectfully asked, "Master Wade, should I continue reading?" Charlie nodded, "Please proceed." Chapter 1969. With Charlie's nod of approval, Don Albert raised his voice and announced, "Lord Moore has gifted Master Wade a luxurious yacht, crafted in Italy by San Lorenzo." "A yacht?" Elaine exclaimed first, her curiosity instantly ignited. "What kind of yacht? What type of vessel is it?" Lord Moore smiled and explained, "Ms. Elaine, you may have misunderstood. San Lorenzo is a renowned European luxury yacht manufacturer. This yacht is over 20 meters long and features 3 decks, making it perfect for family outings and leisure trips." Elaine was stunned. "A yacht like that must cost a fortune, right?" Reuben chimed in calmly, "Including taxes, it's approximately $70 million. "How much?" Elaine gasped. "A yacht worth $70 million? That's insane." Claire quickly spoke up, "Lord Moore, this gift is far too extravagant. We truly can't accept something like this." At that moment, Charlie smiled faintly, gestured for Claire to stop, and said gently, "My dear wife, this is Lord Moore's sincere intention. It wouldn't be appropriate to refuse it." Charlie then turned toward Lord Moore, slightly bowed, and said earnestly, "Master Moore, thank you very much." Lord Moore quickly replied, "Oh, Master Wade, you're too polite. Please don't mention it, just enjoy it." He continued, "The keys and all relevant documents are inside the gift box. The yacht is currently docked at the Oris Hill Yacht Association, where I've secured a private berth for you. Whenever you wish to sail or cruise along the Yangtze River, simply contact the Yacht Association staff." Charlie nodded with a smile. "It may be a while before I use it. I don't have a yacht operator's license yet, so I'll wait until I take the test." Lord Moore immediately added, "Master Wade, if you need to use the yacht at any time, Jasmine or Reuben can assist you. They both hold valid yacht operator licenses." Jasmine spoke up softly, slightly shy, "Yes, Master Wade. Just let me know if you need help." She then remembered something and added, "Oh, right. After the Chinese New Year, if you need to use the yacht, please contact my brother. I'll be heading to Japan after the New Year and may be away for some time." "Oh?" Charlie asked with interest. "Are you traveling to Japan for leisure?" Jasmine shook her head. "No, it's for business. The Moore family plans to enter the steel manufacturing industry and intends to discuss cooperation with Nippon Steel." "Nippon Steel?" Charlie frowned slightly. "Is that company reliable?" Jasmine nodded. "Yes. Nippon Steel is one of the world's leading steel companies and among the largest in the industry." Charlie asked curiously, "Who controls it?" Jasmine replied, "The primary stakeholder behind Nippon Steel is the Sumitomo Group." "Sumitomo Group," Charlie murmured. "I'm not very familiar with them." Jasmine laughed lightly. "Their businesses are mostly in heavy industry and large-scale manufacturing, which don't directly affect daily life." Charlie nodded. "If you encounter any trouble in Japan, feel free to contact me. I have a few connections there." He deliberately avoided mentioning his ties with Yuhiko Ito and Nanako Ito, choosing to keep his past activities in Japan low-key. Jasmine didn't think much of it and smiled. "Thank you, Master Wade. I'll definitely reach out if I need help." At that moment, Don Albert continued reading from the list. Dr. Simmons presents Master Wade with a pair of exquisite blue and white dragon-shaped elephant ear bottles. Chapter 1970. Hearing this, Jacob abruptly stood up, his entire body trembling with excitement. "What? Blue and white? Dragon-shaped elephant ear bottles? Don Albert nodded firmly. Yes, Mr. Wilson. A genuine pair of blue and white dragon-shaped elephant ear bottles. Oh my God. Jacob had always been obsessed with antiques. Although he often got cheated when buying them, his foundational knowledge of the antique world was solid. Blue and white porcelain was famously among the most expensive porcelain in existence. Any authentic blue and white piece from the dynasty could easily fetch millions. A top-tier piece, such as the famous Gaguzzi Shushan blue and white porcelain, had exceeded $100 million at auction more than 10 years ago. If auctioned today, it would likely surpass $500 million. Jacob vividly remembered reading about a dynasty blue and white dragon-shaped elephant ear bottle. Numerous appraisal records from Christie's and Sotheby's referenced similar artifacts. Conservatively speaking, such a piece would be worth at least $30 to $50 million. At that moment, Zyla gently opened a finely crafted mahogany gift box lined with golden silk. Inside lay two breathtaking blue and white porcelain vases, resting quietly on the satin lining. Jacob's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Blue porcelain. The holy grail of antique collectors. Owning even one piece was enough to crown an antique collector's life journey. Without hesitation, Jacob stepped forward and carefully lifted one of the bottles. Even so, his hands trembled violently. The thought of accidentally dropping a dynasty porcelain treasure nearly stopped his heart. After all, its value far exceeded that of the Wadden bottle. Seeing his father-in-law's obsession, Charlie smiled and said to Dr. Simmons, "Dr. Simmons, thank you for such a generous gift. My father-in-law has a deep love for antiques, so I thought he should admire it more closely." Dr. Simmons replied quickly, "Master Wade, please do as you wish." Charlie then took one of the elephant ear bottles from Zyla and handed it to Jacob, smiling. "Dad, since you love antiques so much, I'll borrow these bottles and give them to you." Jacob was overwhelmed. His body trembled as he protested. "How can I accept something this valuable? It's far too expensive." Elaine felt an instant surge of jealousy. Although she didn't know the exact value of the blue and white elephant ear bottles, she knew they were worth at least tens of millions. In her heart, she cursed silently. "I get cosmetics and handbags worth a few $100,000, but that old bastard gets antiques worth tens of millions? Why the hell does he deserve that?" As jealousy churned inside her, Charlie reassured Jacob. This was the genius doctor's intention. Just keep it safe at home as part of your collection. Don't sell it. Jacob immediately declared. "Don't worry, my good son-in-law. Even if I had to sell myself, I would never sell this pair of bottles." He accepted the blue and white elephant ear bottle with both hands, staring at its glaze and coloration with reverence as tears welled in his eyes. Elaine sighed inwardly. Even an old man like Jacob gets such a treasure, but keeping it without selling it. What a waste. Chapter 1971. Elaine evaluates everything according to three distinct criteria. The first is monetary value, how much cash an item can be converted into. The second is the social status, or face, that the item can bring her. In Elaine's mind, everything in this world boils down to just two things, money and face. For example, when Charlie bought her a top-tier caviar skincare set worth nearly $400,000, she immediately calculated that it could be resold for at least $300,000. That alone made the item extremely valuable to her. That perfectly satisfied her first standard. In another case, if an item could be sold for $100,000 and also allowed her to flaunt it publicly, drawing envy, jealousy, and resentment from others, then its value doubled in her eyes. That satisfied her second standard, face. At that moment, Elaine glanced at the blue and white porcelain and sneered inwardly. If something can't be sold for money and doesn't let me show off to others, what the hell is it worth? Even though this blue and white dragon-shaped elephant ear bottle looks valuable, it can't be sold and can't be shown off. To me, it's just a useless piece of junk. Unless, she thought darkly, I secretly steal it and sell it later for a few thousand. But she quickly reconsidered. No. Charlie gave this thing to Jacob. If I sell it behind his back, that old bastard might cry about it. but if Charlie finds out, I'd be completely fucked. With that realization, Elaine decisively abandoned any ideas about the blue and white dragon-shaped elephant ear bottles. Meanwhile, Don Albert continued reading through the gift list. Mr. Quinton presented a massive emerald valued at 50 million, while Mr. White gifted a pink diamond worth roughly the same amount. The two men were on good terms and knew each other well. At the previous auto show, they had jointly gifted Charlie a luxury sports car, and this time they coordinated again, choosing different types of jewelry to avoid overlap. As the announcement concluded, Aurora and Fred White each stepped forward holding a gift box, revealing the dazzling gemstones inside. One gem glowed with a rich emerald green, while the other shimmered with a soft, elegant pink. Under the lights, the two stones sparkled brilliantly, creating a breathtaking sight. Elaine's eyes instantly lit up. She couldn't help but recall the jade bracelet Mr. Quinton had once given Charlie. That bracelet was worth several million, and after Charlie gave it to Claire, Elaine had secretly worn it for a long time, treating it as her own, until it was accidentally shattered while Hannah was wearing it. That loss still made her heart ache. Since then, she hadn't owned any decent jewelry. Now, staring at the flawless emerald and pink diamond, Elaine fantasized about turning them into a necklace, wearing it proudly, and basking in the envy of everyone around her. But she quickly suppressed the thought. If Charlie didn't give permission, she wouldn't dare touch them. After the gemstones were displayed, Don Albert continued loudly. Travis Lane presents Master Wade with an EC-145 helicopter manufactured by Eurocopter. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Chapter 1972. Just moments earlier, Lord Moore had gifted a luxury yacht. Now, Travis Lane had gone even further and delivered a helicopter. Claire was completely stunned and momentarily lost for words. Faced with such an outrageous gift, she felt a deep sense of unease. The unease came from fear. Fear of the sheer value of these gifts. Each item was so valuable that even the richest people wouldn't casually give them away. The total worth of the gifts so far was already in the tens of millions, possibly far more. Every single one was a priceless treasure, and yet they had all been given to Charlie. To Claire, the entire situation felt unreal, almost dreamlike. At this moment, Travis Lane spoke up. Master Wade, I know you don't often leave Oris Hill. Lancaster isn't too far, it takes 4 or 5 hours by car. But with a helicopter, it's only about 2 hours. I thought this would be convenient for your short to medium distance travel. It's far more efficient than driving. Charlie nodded slightly, acknowledging the thoughtfulness. Travis always plans things carefully. However, for Charlie, whether it was a hot spring villa, a private yacht, or a helicopter, none of it stirred much excitement. When he was young, the Wade family had owned nearly every form of civilian transportation imaginable. Luxury cars worth millions, or even tens of millions, were insignificant. The Wade family possessed multiple private jets worth hundreds of millions, some nearing $1 billion. Villas and estates worth over $100 million were scattered across the globe. As for luxury yachts, they were nothing special. In fact, when Charlie's father was younger, he had purchased an enormous luxury cruise ship capable of carrying hundreds of passengers and even transporting helicopters across the world. Bruce bought that ship for one reason: to please his wife. Charlie's mother, though a descendant of Teresa Rose, was an overseas Chinese. Her family lived across the ocean, and having grown up in the West, she loved adventure and travel. To satisfy her longing to visit relatives and explore the world, Bruce spent an astronomical sum on the cruise ship. He promised to spend 2 months every year traveling with her, visiting family abroad while sailing across the seas. From the age of 3, Charlie traveled back to his grandmother's home aboard that cruise ship every year, until the accident that took his parents' lives when he was 8. While most people dream of traveling the world even once, Charlie had done so annually since childhood. Because of that upbringing, material luxuries rarely impressed him. As everyone watched Charlie calmly accept each extravagant gift without visible excitement, an awkward embarrassment spread among the guests. They slowly realized that none of their offerings truly moved him. Later, Liam presented Charlie with a jade-carved statue, claiming it depicted the god of wealth and would protect Charlie's safety and fortune. Charlie smiled and accepted it graciously. Finally, Don Albert stepped forward, holding a carefully wrapped gift box. His expression was unusually serious as he said, "Master Wade, I also have a small gift for you." Charlie smiled. "Don Albert, after seeing so many gifts today, I'm curious. What did you bring?" Don Albert looked slightly embarrassed and admitted, "I was worried Master Wade might not like my gift, so I hesitated to present it." Charlie reassured him calmly, "No matter what it is, I'll accept it with gratitude." Don Albert nodded solemnly and said, "Master Wade, I present to you a villa located near the Imperial Palace in Tokyo, Japan." Chapter 1973. When word spread that Don Albert had gifted Charlie a villa in Tokyo, everyone was stunned. They couldn't quite understand why Don Albert would choose to give Charlie a villa in Japan. However, after a brief moment of shock, Isaac Cameron and Liam suddenly had a realization. Almost in unison, they let out a sigh, wondering why they hadn't thought of this possibility earlier. During their time in Japan, they had been by Charlie's side, diligently helping to set up the production line for Kobayashi Pharmaceuticals. After everyone arrived in Osaka, Charlie had expressed his desire to visit Kyoto alone. At the time, Don Albert suspected that Charlie was likely going to see Nanako Ito. Having worked alongside Charlie for a long time and being exceptionally perceptive, Don Albert had noticed certain subtleties about him. He had long observed that Charlie seemed to harbor special feelings for the Japanese female fighter Nanako Ito, who had returned to Japan to recover from injuries sustained during a match. Don Albert had kept track of Nanako Ito's recovery progress. She was first treated in Tokyo before relocating to Kyoto for training. When Charlie decided to go to Kyoto alone while the group was in Osaka, Don Albert immediately connected the dots. What made it even more convincing was that Charlie drove to Kyoto during the day and then went to Tokyo at night. By cross-referencing the timeline with Japanese news reports, Don Albert was able to piece everything together and arrive at a clear conclusion. He knew that Nanako Ito was striving to become the successor of the Ito family, which owned a grand mansion near the imperial residence in Tokyo. As a result, he decided to purchase a villa nearby and gift it to Charlie. In his eyes, this was something Charlie would genuinely appreciate. Isaac Cameron and Liam, who had accompanied Charlie to Japan, were also aware of the underlying circumstances. The moment they learned that Don Albert had gifted Charlie a villa in Tokyo, they instantly understood his intentions. Although they admired Don Albert's foresight, they couldn't help but feel annoyed with themselves for failing to think of it first. When Charlie heard about the Tokyo villa, he was equally surprised. At first, he couldn't understand why Don Albert would give him such a gift, especially one located so close to the Ito family residence. Soon enough, he realized that Don Albert must have noticed certain clues and acted accordingly. At that moment, Charlie felt conflicted. He genuinely admired Nanako Ito and knew that she had feelings for him, but his status as a married man made everything complicated. His previous visits to see her had been solely to help with her recovery, and he hadn't expected things to develop the way they did. After confirming that Nanako Ito had fully recovered and was safely back in Tokyo, Charlie believed he had put everything behind him. However, Don Albert's gift of a villa in Tokyo caused those thoughts to resurface. Just then, Elaine clapped her hands excitedly and said, "Oh! I've always wanted to go to Japan to see the cherry blossoms and go shopping. With a villa of our own in Tokyo, I could visit any time." Don Albert immediately replied, "Miss Elaine, you're welcome to go whenever you like. I've already arranged for several staff members to be on standby around the clock, so whenever you arrive, everything will be properly taken care of." "Oh, that's wonderful!" Elaine exclaimed. "I've wanted to travel abroad for years, but I never had the chance. Now that my son-in-law is successful, I'll definitely be traveling more." She then turned to Lord Moore and asked, "Lord Moore, can the yacht you gave us sail all the way to Japan?" Chapter 1974. Lord Moore quickly replied, "Miss Elaine, that yacht has a range of over 2,000 nautical miles, nearly 4,000 kilometers. It can sail from Oris Hill to the estuary and then onward to Tokyo. However, since it involves crossing international borders, customs clearance would need to be arranged in advance. Filled with excitement, Elaine turned to Charlie and said, "Good son-in-law, let's take the yacht to Japan." "What do you think?" Charlie responded vaguely. "We can talk about it when I have more time." Elaine immediately shot back. "Time isn't an issue at all. Your father and I don't work, and you don't really have to either. You're already the boss of the company. Taking a vacation should be easy." Claire quickly interrupted. "Mom, what are you talking about? Starting a business takes full commitment. How can I just leave everything behind to travel?" Elaine waved her hand dismissively and said, "That's fine. You stay here and manage the company while Charlie takes me to Tokyo. This way, you can focus on your work, and we'll enjoy ourselves." Claire was rendered speechless. Although she didn't want her family traveling without her, Elaine had cornered her perfectly. At first, Elaine had invited Claire to go along. When Claire refused because of work, Elaine immediately suggested that she stay behind to run the company. Claire couldn't argue without contradicting herself. After a moment, she reluctantly said, "Fine. Do whatever you want." Charlie smiled faintly and said, "Let's not discuss this right now. The Chinese New Year is coming up, and I'll definitely be staying home for the holidays. We can think about traveling after that." Elaine nodded eagerly. "Of course, son-in-law. Mom will listen to you." Charlie acknowledged her response, then turned to everyone present and said sincerely, "Thank you all for coming today and for the generous gifts." Everyone hurriedly replied, "You're too polite." "It's nothing." Charlie smiled and continued, "As the saying goes, courtesy demands reciprocity. After the Chinese New Year, I'll prepare return gifts for everyone. I'll need Mr. Quinton's help to gather some materials." The moment he said this, everyone present felt their hearts race. They instantly understood, Charlie was planning to give out his pills again. Otherwise, he wouldn't have mentioned Mr. Quinton. What was Mr. Quinton best known for? Chinese medicinal herbs. The materials used for Charlie's very first batch of pills had all come from Mr. Quinton. Now that Charlie was asking him to prepare materials again, the implication was obvious, he was planning to refine more pills. Charlie deliberately avoided saying this outright, as he didn't want to draw attention in front of his wife and father-in-law. He also intentionally avoided specifying whether it would be the ordinary pills or the rejuvenation formula. But everyone present already knew his capabilities. With just that hint, they understood perfectly. Please indicate the source. Chapter 1975. Charlie's rejuvenation pills were anything but ordinary. As the saying goes, rare things are valuable. Take Travis Lane, for example, he spent $2 billion to obtain a rejuvenation pill. This alone proved that, in the eyes of the wealthy, such pills were absolutely worth the price. Naturally, Charlie had no intention of matching the value of the gifts he received. If something were truly worthless, it wouldn't be so scarce, nor would it command such staggering prices. With that in mind, Charlie planned to ask Mr. Quinton to source some raw materials so he could refine another batch of his original pills. His intention was to give one pill to each person who had come bearing gifts that day. Everyone had arrived to offer New Year's greetings, bringing valuable presents with them, but none of them expected Charlie to give something in return. When he did, excitement rippled through the crowd, making every penny they had spent feel more than worthwhile. After exchanging glances, Hong spoke up respectfully. "Master Wade, with so many of us here, we've surely disturbed your family time. We should take our leave." Charlie nodded and replied, "After the Chinese New Year, I'll find a time to host a dinner to properly thank everyone." The group immediately clasped their fists and bowed together. Master Wade. Soon, the grand convoy departed. As Charlie's family watched them leave, Elaine was the first to break the silence. "Good heavens! We've struck gold today," she exclaimed. "A villa, a yacht, and even a helicopter. What a massive fortune." Jacob was equally thrilled. "Those dollar blue and white elephant ear vases are true national treasures. I need to take another look." Elaine turned toward Charlie and said, Oh, by the way, son-in-law. I noticed they left quite a few unopened gift boxes behind. Why didn't they mention what's inside? Charlie shrugged. I don't know either. If you're curious, feel free to open them. Elaine beamed. Of course I will. I'll start right now. Claire, looking uneasy, interrupted. Charlie, why are they giving you so many expensive gifts? These things are worth hundreds of millions. Isn't that a bit too much? Charlie smiled calmly. I help them, and they thank me with gifts. They give what they like, and I accept what I appreciate. What's the problem? Claire frowned. But the value is still outrageous. Can feng shui really justify this? Charlie nodded. As long as people believe in it, they're willing to pay. There was once a famous master who attracted countless celebrities and tycoons. They spent obscene amounts on him because they believed he could change their fate. Claire immediately countered. But wasn't that man eventually exposed as a fraud? Charlie chuckled. He might have been a fraud, but I'm not. He continued. I've helped plenty of people with feng shui, and every one of them saw real benefits. Otherwise, why would they keep believing in me? Claire asked again. Then what do you plan to give them in return? I'll give each of them a set of peace talismans, Charlie replied. A talisman? Claire exclaimed. The kind that costs a few dollars at a temple? Charlie nodded. Similar, but temple talismans are consecrated by monks. Mine are consecrated by me. Claire looked uneasy. Are you sure this won't cause trouble one day? Charlie reassured her gently. Don't worry. I do business cleanly. I've practiced feng shui for years. Have you ever seen anyone come after me? Claire fell silent. He was right. Over the years, Charlie had earned a tremendous fortune through feng shui, even acquiring a villa worth over 100 million. Not a single client had ever caused him trouble. Especially Mr. White. Mr. White had gifted him a villa and a priceless pink diamond, clear proof of how much Charlie had truly helped him and how deeply loyal he was. Chapter 1976. At that moment, Elaine waved her hand dismissively and said, Oh, Claire, you really don't understand feng shui or these things. Don't say nonsense to Charlie. Then her tone hardened as she turned fully toward Claire. Mom doesn't expect you to help Charlie in his career, but I will never allow you to drag him down. The future of this family depends entirely on Charlie. Claire was stunned into silence. It was painfully obvious that her mother had completely taken Charlie's side. Anything Claire said now would be useless. With a helpless sigh, she said, I'm heading to the company. Elaine quickly added, Why not wait until I finish unpacking before you go? Claire shook her head. I'm already late. Everyone's waiting for me to host a summary meeting. Elaine waved her off. All right then. If anything exciting turns up, I'll take pictures and send them to you. Claire hummed in response, then turned to Charlie and Jacob. Husband, Dad, I'm leaving. Charlie nodded. Drive carefully. Don't worry, Claire replied. I will. After she drove away, Charlie returned to the living room. By then, Jacob and Elaine were already knee-deep in gift boxes. Elaine opened one and shrieked with delight. Wow! A limited edition Chanel bag. Jacob opened another box, staring at the bottle inside before exclaiming. My God! This is a 5-star Matai from 1958. It's incredibly rare, one sold at auction a few years ago for 2.99 million. What? Elaine screamed. A bottle of liquor worth 2.99 million? Are you insane? Jacob rolled his eyes. You've clearly never seen the real world. You're shocked by 2.99 million? There's a kind of Matai called Handy Matai, only 10 bottles exist in the entire country, and each one is worth millions. Handy Matai. Elaine frowned. What does that mean? Wine dug out of the ground. Jacob snorted. You really don't know anything. You went to college, yet you don't even know the Han Emperor isn't some wasteland? Elaine scoffed. Pfft. Who are you looking down on? It's because you explain things like crap. Does my lady even know who the Han Emperor is? Jacob shot back immediately. You definitely don't know who the Han Emperor is. If you can name him right now, I'll admit you actually graduated from college. Elaine was instantly speechless. She genuinely couldn't recall the name. Seeing her flustered, Jacob sneered. What? Can't remember. Was college completely wasted on you? Elaine snapped. Enough of your nonsense. Jacob, that bottle is worth 3 million, you absolutely cannot drink it. Lock it up and wait for it to appreciate before selling it. Jacob glared at her. This was given to my son-in-law Charlie. Whatever Charlie says goes. If he wants to drink it, we drink it. If he says sell it, we sell it. If he says smash it, we smash it. You can only stand there and watch. You. Watching the two of them bicker endlessly, Charlie shook his head helplessly. At that moment, his phone rang. It was Stephanie. He turned to his parents and said, Dad, Mom, I have something to handle. I'll head upstairs. Without waiting for a response, he stepped into the elevator. Chapter 1977. Charlie walked back to his room with Claire before joining Stephanie on a video call. He greeted her warmly. Hey, Stephanie. Charlie. Stephanie exclaimed, waving excitedly at the screen. She was wearing a comfortable nightgown and looked completely at ease at home. Without any makeup, her long black hair fell loosely over her shoulders. At that moment, she looked less like a dazzling superstar and more like a gentle, charming girl next door. Smiling brightly, she asked, Charlie, what are you doing? Charlie smiled back and replied, I'm preparing for the Chinese New Year. Nothing too busy, just getting some festive things ready at home. Stephanie grinned. Hee hee, same here. This year, we're going back to the old house in Heathbrook to celebrate. She then turned the camera around, revealing that she was standing in the vast courtyard of the Banks family residence. Charlie couldn't help asking. Daisy, your courtyard is huge. Won't it feel a bit empty with just the three of you celebrating the new year? Not at all. Stephanie replied cheerfully. This year, my second and third uncles will be there too. 3 big families together, it'll be lively. Charlie nodded and asked thoughtfully. How have your second and third uncles been lately? No trouble, I hope. Stephanie quickly reassured him. No. They've been very well behaved. They come home every few days and bring gifts each time. She added. Oh, and since we're going back to the old house for the new year, they suggested it to my dad. They said it's been too long since the whole family celebrated together, and my dad agreed. Charlie recalled that Stephanie's second uncle, Hank, and third uncle, Carl, had long struggled with infertility. He understood that their recent obedience was likely an attempt to please Oren and repair family relations. After all, they had already signed an agreement with Oren, pledging to follow his lead. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes now. Satisfied, Charlie said. That's good. If they start acting up again, let me know immediately. Stephanie nodded eagerly. Charlie, wait a second. I'll go to my parents' room, they want to talk to you too. Charlie reminded her. Put on something warmer first. That outfit looks more like summer wear. Don't catch a cold. Stephanie smiled sweetly. I won't. The courtyard has underfloor heating, and the room stays around 28 degrees. Hearing that, Charlie felt relieved. In his heart, Stephanie was more than just a fiancée bound by a marriage agreement, she was like a younger sister who had grown up by his side. So his concern for her was entirely genuine. On the screen, Stephanie hurried through the spacious hall toward Oren and Angie's room. At that moment, Oren was sitting at his desk, sipping tea while reading a book. Angie had just lit a sandalwood incense burner and was placing it on the desk. Seeing Stephanie rush in, Oren quickly warned. Daisy, slow down. Don't fall. Stephanie said excitedly. Mom, I'm on a video call with Charlie. The moment Oren heard Charlie's name, he immediately set the book aside. You're video chatting with Charlie? Let me talk to him. Stephanie quickly placed the phone on the desk so Oren could see the screen. Looking energetic and spirited, Oren smiled at Charlie and asked. Charlie, how have things been in Oris Hill lately? Chapter 1978. Charlie smiled and replied. Uncle Oren, everything's been going well. How about you and Angie? We're doing great. Oren said enthusiastically, nodding. At that moment, Angie leaned closer to the screen and said with a smile. Charlie, when are you coming to Eastcliff for a few days? Uncle Oren talks about you all the time. Honestly, he mentions you several times a day, my ears are almost worn out. Charlie replied warmly. As soon as I finish my work, I'll definitely come to Eastcliff to see both of you. From the side, Stephanie muttered unhappily. What do you mean by just seeing them? What about me? Am I not worth seeing? Charlie immediately laughed and said. Of course I want to see you too. I misspoke. I'll make time for you, Uncle Oren, and Angie. Is that better? Stephanie lifted her chin smugly. That sounds more like it. Oren then asked. By the way, Charlie, I heard your aunt went to Oris Hill? Yes, Charlie replied calmly. Uncle Oren, did you hear about it? Oren chuckled. Your grandfather called me this morning and told me everything about you and your aunt. Charlie was surprised. He knows that I've been in contact with you. Oren shook his head. Not exactly. He thought I hadn't seen your message yet, so he took the initiative to tell me. Charlie frowned slightly. Why would he do that? Oren smiled knowingly. He mainly wanted to update me on your situation. He also asked whether I was still willing to honor the promise I made with your father, about you marrying my daughter. A wave of embarrassment washed over Charlie. Clearly, his grandfather still hoped to pull him back into the Wade family and finalize his engagement to Stephanie. Seeing Charlie's reaction, Oren quickly said. Charlie, don't feel pressured. I told your grandfather that I'll keep my promise, but only if it aligns with the wishes of the younger generation. He continued. Take your time. I assured him that our family is willing to wait for you for 3 years, and we truly mean it. Charlie nodded sincerely. Thank you for understanding, Uncle Oren. Oren waved it off. No need to thank me. I'm on your side. Then he added. Your grandfather also asked me to encourage you. After all, you and your aunt are family. He hopes you won't let things escalate too much or disturb your peace. Charlie sighed. Uncle Oren, my aunt is extremely domineering, and my grandfather never restrains her. When she came to Oris Hill, she drank too much and spread rumors about me to my mother-in-law. It's honestly unbearable. Oren nodded. She's always been difficult in Eastcliff. I didn't expect her to cause trouble even after going to Oris Hill. Charlie replied indifferently. If she weren't so excessive, I wouldn't want anything to do with her. Oren chuckled softly. Your grandfather really wants me to persuade you. If possible, he hopes you'll return to the Wade family home. The spring festival will be over soon, the Lantern Festival is approaching, and March isn't far off. He hopes you can attend the ancestor worship ceremony at Wade Mountain. Charlie raised an eyebrow. Ancestor worship? Yes, Oren confirmed. The Wade family holds this ceremony once every 12 years. This year is especially important. Wade Mountain has been under development for more than 3 years, the construction was completed last spring, and the ancestral tomb was relocated there last autumn. This will be the first spring festival with the tomb at Wade Mountain. He continued. Your grandfather plans to host a grand ceremony. Not only immediate family members, but many branches of the Wade family from all over the country will attend. As a grandson of the Wade family, he hopes you'll be there, to pay respects to your parents as well. Chapter 1979. Among the Wade family, ancestor worship stands as their most important family ceremony. Large families, especially those with a long and distinguished heritage like the Wade family, place immense importance on ancestor worship due to their vast lineage and deep-rooted history. Although many wealthy families aspire to hold distinctive ancestor worship ceremonies, true and authentic observances are often beyond the capabilities of ordinary families. Some newly rich families may wish to conduct such ceremonies, yet find themselves unable to meet the standards and expectations associated with them. This is largely because their ancestors may have been simple farmers for the past 3 or 4 generations, leaving little of notable achievement to pass down to future descendants. While farmers certainly deserve respect, within elite circles, such ancestral backgrounds often lack sufficient prestige and influence. This is especially true in the upper echelons of East Cliff society. Here, status is determined not only by wealth and power, but also by family heritage and lineage. Many families in East Cliff can trace their ancestry back to the Qi period during the Manchu and Qintong dynasties, when their forebears held noble titles. Such families possess deep and solid foundations. During ancestor worship ceremonies, merely mentioning the accomplishments of 2 or 3 ancestors is enough to evoke a strong sense of superiority. The Wade family's ancestors also served as imperial officials. While ordinary families would eagerly establish ancestral halls to honor their forebears, the Wade family boasts a lineage that includes hundreds of scholars and numerous champions, 31 of whom ranked among the very highest. During the nearly 300 years of the Qintong dynasty, a total of 112 imperial examinations were held. In that time, more than 20,000 scholars were recognized, along with 114 champions. The Wade family alone accounted for nearly 10% of these accomplishments, a truly staggering legacy. This long-standing tradition of scholarly excellence allowed the Wade family to prosper for centuries, maintaining strength even through turbulent times. With branches spread across the globe, the Wade family now has tens of thousands of descendants, many of whom reside overseas. Yet when traced back through history, all of them originate from the same ancestral Wade family. Traditionally, the eldest son inherited the family legacy, while younger sons and the children of concubines would establish their own households. Over time, this led to the formation of numerous collateral branches, with only the direct lineage recognized as the true family. For example, Charlie's father had 3 brothers. According to ancient customs, after Charlie's parents passed away, the 3 Wade brothers would separate. The eldest, Corin, inherited the majority of the family estate. The second and third sons were required to leave the Wade family mansion with their families after completing 3 years of mourning for their father, establishing their own independent households. As a result, the families of the second and third sons became collateral branches of the Wade family. Initially, these collateral branches remained relatively close to the main family, since the second and third brothers were still direct siblings of the eldest. However, by Charlie's generation, it was his cousin who inherited the main family's legacy, creating a significant generational gap between the collateral families and the main branch. As time progressed into the third and fourth generations, these collateral branches drifted even further apart, forming several distant family lines. If this continued for 5 or 6 generations, spanning over a century, it was likely that many family members would no longer recognize one another, discovering their shared ancestry only through genealogical records. Chapter 1980. As the main family, it is essential to conduct ancestor worship ceremonies regularly in order to gather members of the extended family. These gatherings allow relatives to reconnect, and after collectively honoring their common ancestors, they strengthen their bloodline bonds. This practice is crucial for maintaining unity and cohesion within large families. In the case of the Wade family, they not only hold an ancestor worship ceremony every 12 years, but also take this opportunity to update the entire Wade family genealogy. Over the course of each 12-year interval, significant changes occur across the family, new heirs are born, elders pass away, and young members marry. Therefore, every 12 years, the various branches of the Wade family report population changes within their households to the main family. During this time, the main family appoints a respected elder to update the genealogy, carefully recording the names and contributions of each individual. The current Wade family genealogy contains the names of hundreds of descendants, along with their spouses. For example, it includes entries such as, Wade family son XX, whose daughter XX married, or the Wade family's daughter who married the son of so-and-so. Each update of the genealogy is a grand and solemn affair. The genealogy itself is stored in a specially designed safe that maintains constant temperature and humidity, and during the ancestor worship ceremony, it is ceremoniously presented by Wade family descendants. After the worship concludes, the genealogy is respectfully returned to its secure location. Once the updated genealogy is completed, it is likewise ceremoniously placed alongside the previous genealogical records. All members of the Wade family regard the genealogy as a sacred family relic, something to be revered and protected. The main family holds exclusive authority over the genealogy. As a result, when extended family members attend the ancestor worship ceremony, they perform 3 bows and 9 prostrations before the genealogy, reinforcing their sense of belonging to the main family. This ritual functions much like the relationship between ancient emperors and their ministers, using strict etiquette and elaborate traditions to instill loyalty and reverence. It is also a powerful method for the main family to assert its authority over the collateral branches. However, Charlie had no memory of the Wade family's ancestor worship ceremony. The most recent ceremony took place 12 years ago, when he was still living at the Oris Hill Welfare Institute. The one before that occurred 24 years ago, when he was too young to remember. Although he could not recall the ceremony from 24 years earlier, he clearly understood that the Wade family's ancestor worship was a grand tribute to their ancestors. As a result, Charlie found himself eagerly anticipating the upcoming ceremony. His anticipation was not solely about honoring the Wade family's ancestors. More importantly, he hoped to pay tribute to his own parents in a dignified and magnificent way. The last time he accompanied Oren to honor his parents, he had been forced to pose as Oren's driver, preventing him from visiting his parents' graves in his true identity or bowing to them with proper reverence. This regret had lingered in his heart ever since. Thus, he turned to Oren and said, "Uncle Oren, please inform my grandfather that I will attend the ancestor worship ceremony during the spring festival." Chapter 1981. Oren initially thought that Charlie wouldn't agree, but he was surprised by how quickly Charlie gave his answer. He immediately said, "Your grandfather will be thrilled to hear that you're willing to attend the ancestor worship ceremony." Charlie smiled, but inwardly he thought, whether he'll truly be happy depends on whether I'm willing to follow his arrangements and become a tool for the Wade family's foreign marriage plans, not merely on my attendance at the ceremony. However, he kept these thoughts to himself and did not share them with Oren. At that moment, Stephanie spoke up, "Oh, by the way, Charlie, I've set the date for my concert in Oris Hill." Charlie was startled and asked, "A concert? In Oris Hill?" Stephanie nodded with a smile and explained, "Yes. Originally, Oris Hill was scheduled as the next stop on my tour, but the exact date hadn't been confirmed until now." Charlie suddenly recalled that during a previous dinner with his wife and Stephanie, his wife had excitedly mentioned that Stephanie would soon be performing in Oris Hill. He hadn't expected the concert to be officially scheduled so soon. Curious, Charlie asked, "So when is your concert?" Stephanie replied, "It's on the second day of the second lunar month, starting at 7 p.m. It happens to be your birthday. The venue is the Oris Hill Olympic Stadium." Charlie was taken aback. "The second day of the second lunar month? Is that really my birthday? Did she deliberately choose that date?" Stephanie added enthusiastically, "Charlie, I've already reserved the best seat for you. You absolutely have to come and celebrate with me." Charlie nodded and said firmly, "Don't worry. I'll definitely be there." Stephanie beamed. "Great. Then I'll see you in Oris Hill." "Sounds good," Charlie replied. At that moment, a knock interrupted Oren during the video call. "Come in," Oren said. Hank, the second son of the Wade family, entered and reported respectfully, "Brother, sister-in-law, the Banks family has come to deliver New Year gifts." Oren raised his eyebrows in surprise. "The Banks family? I've never had any dealings with them. Why would they suddenly bring me gifts?" Hank shook his head, equally confused. "I don't know either. This time, it's Zane's children, Fitz and Zara. Zane himself didn't come, probably because he knows you're unhappy with him over what happened with Big Brother Wade." Oren frowned even more. If Zane didn't come, then what are his children doing here? I've never heard of the younger generation of the Banks family paying New Year visits to anyone. The Banks family had always held a lofty position in Eastcliff. Neither Lord Banks nor his sons would ever visit other families during the Chinese New Year, they would only visit their own parents-in-law. Moreover, members of the younger generation, especially Zara's generation, normally wouldn't lower themselves to visit other families. This made Oren completely baffled as to why Zane's children had come to see him. Charlie also found the situation somewhat surprising. Chapter 1982. During his last trip to Japan, Charlie had easily rescued Fitz and Zara. At the time, he believed he had saved 2 allies, only to later discover that one of them was actually the enemy's child. That unexpected revelation had left him feeling deeply unsettled. Now, the 2 of them had appeared at Oren's residence once again. Could it be that the Banks family was trying to curry favor with the Wade family? Charlie remained cautious during the video call. After all, Oren had no idea about what had happened in Japan. At that moment, Hank spoke again. "Brother, do you think the younger generation of the Banks family is here to give gifts with ulterior motives?" "I'm not entirely sure, but I suspect it has something to do with the Banks family's recent setbacks in Japan. They've suffered heavy losses, and maybe they're trying to form alliances with other families." Oren's expression turned icy as he said coldly, "In Eastcliff, the person I respect the least is Zane. He's an absolute disgrace. The anti-Wade coalition against Bruce was a complete mess that he orchestrated, relying on dirty tricks and covert attacks." Angie, who was listening nearby, interjected calmly, "I don't think much of him either, but we shouldn't turn them away outright. As the saying goes, you don't strike someone who comes with a smile. Besides, it's Zane's children who are here this time. We shouldn't let old grudges spill over onto the younger generation. If word got out, it would only make us look petty." After thinking for a moment, Oren nodded. "Fine. Let's see what they're really here for." Then he turned to Charlie and said, "Charlie, the Banks family has come bearing gifts. I'll receive them." Charlie nodded and replied, "All right, Uncle Oren. Go ahead. I just wanted to wish you a Happy New Year in advance." Oren smiled broadly. Happy. I haven't felt this happy during the Chinese New Year in years." He sighed softly and added, "If only you could spend the New Year in Eastcliff, Charlie. If the 4 of us could be together for the holiday, that would be better than anything else. I'd shut the door and enjoy our time together, even if the Heavenly Kings came knocking, I wouldn't let them in." Charlie understood that Oren and Angie hoped to see him become their son-in-law, and even wished that his parents were still alive to witness it. However, he had never considered divorcing Claire, leaving him unsure how to respond. Sensing the awkwardness, Angie stepped in to smooth things over. "It's all right. Charlie must have his own plans. Maybe your wish will come true in a few years. There's no need to rush." Oren nodded. "That's right. No need to hurry, good things take time. I've waited for so many years already. What's another 3? He then said to Charlie, "All right, Charlie, I won't keep you any longer. We'll talk another day. Happy New Year." Charlie replied promptly, "Thank you, Uncle Oren." At that moment, Stephanie spoke up, "Mom, Dad, you go ahead. I'll stay and chat with Charlie for a bit." Oren waved his hand. "You should come with us. I have nothing to say to the younger generation of the Banks family. You know them well enough, just exchange a few polite words on my behalf and find an excuse to leave." Stephanie sighed. "All right then." She turned back to Charlie and said, "Charlie, I'm hanging up now." Charlie smiled and nodded. "Okay. Take care." Meanwhile, in the main hall of the Banks family courtyard, Fitz, a handsome and promising young man, sat on a red sandalwood sofa beside the elegant Zara. After the Banks family servants served tea, they quietly withdrew, leaving the 2 alone in the hall. Noticing Fitz's nervous expression, Zara leaned closer and whispered teasingly, "Brother, remember, don't be so nervous when you meet your dream girl." Chapter 1983. At first, Fitz felt a wave of nervousness wash over him, but after hearing his sister's words, his heart began to race with even greater anxiety. Fitz and Stephanie were siblings, yet their relationship was closer to that of acquaintances than close family members. Stephanie belonged to the affluent second generation of Eastcliff, a circle Fitz had always admired from afar. For many years, Fitz had secretly harbored feelings for Stephanie. However, because she rarely interacted with the upper-class elite, he had very few opportunities to get close to her. To make matters worse, Fitz had never dared to confess his feelings. He was keenly aware that his father, Zane, held the Sun family in relatively low regard. As the eldest son of the Banks family, Fitz was destined to inherit the family in the future. Naturally, Zane placed tremendous importance on his son's marriage. In Zane's view, the Banks family stood at the pinnacle of the nation, with only the Wade family qualified to rival them. Therefore, he believed Fitz should marry someone from an even higher social tier or from a prestigious family overseas. Because of this, Zane would never support a relationship between Fitz and Stephanie of the Sun family. Fitz had never seriously considered confessing to Stephanie in the past. Although he lacked the sharp intelligence and decisiveness of his sister Zara, he was more self-aware and clearly understood the constraints placed upon his marriage. As a result, he had long resigned himself to letting his family determine his future. However, after being kidnapped by a ninja in Japan and narrowly escaping death, Fitz began to contemplate the fragility of life. He realized that even a full lifespan lasted only a few decades, and unforeseen events could end it at any moment. With this realization, he began to question why he should compromise on something as important as marriage. Since he had always liked Stephanie, why shouldn't he gather the courage to pursue her? When Fitz shared this thought with Zara, she immediately expressed strong support and even began devising plans to help him get closer to Stephanie. Zara remembered that Stephanie would be launching a nationwide concert tour after the new year and suggested that Fitz approach her regarding the concert's naming rights. Coincidentally, Fitz owned a well-known cosmetics brand. Zara proposed that he use the company to discuss a collaboration with Stephanie. The real purpose was for Fitz to establish a professional relationship with Stephanie, allowing him to attend her concerts as the title sponsor and support her openly from the audience. By combining public exposure with private interaction, the two could gradually grow closer. If Fitz demonstrated enough capability and charm, success would only be a matter of time. Feeling both excited and uneasy, Fitz turned to Zara and asked softly, "Do you really think Stephanie would agree to let me name her concert?" Zara replied confidently, "If you follow my advice, I don't think it'll be a problem at all." Chapter 1984. Fitz nodded lightly, still feeling uncertain, and whispered, "I've heard that Stephanie may have a marriage agreement with a younger member of the Wade family. If I confess to her, do you think she would accept?" Zara immediately scoffed. "Oh, come on, brother. Why are you acting so timid? Stop overthinking everything. If you hesitate this much, you'll scare yourself before anything even happens. Besides, even if there really was a marriage agreement, so what? It was Bruce's son who was supposed to marry her. After Bruce and his wife were killed years ago, that kid disappeared without a trace. No one even knows whether he's alive. How could he possibly come back to marry Stephanie?" Zara continued confidently, "Just focus on presenting yourself well. You're the eldest son of the Banks family. In terms of wealth, very few people in this country can compete with you. You're good-looking, highly educated, and perfectly qualified to be with Stephanie." Fitz sighed softly. "Actually, there's something else you might not know." Zara asked, "What is it?" Fitz explained, "Dad and Bruce had a very hostile relationship. Back then, to suppress Bruce, Dad even formed an anti-Wade alliance. The grudge between them runs deep. Since Stephanie's father is close to Bruce, I'm worried he might be biased against the Banks family." Zara frowned slightly. "I know Dad and Bruce didn't get along. I heard Uncle mention it before. But Bruce and Oren are brothers, and I've never heard that Oren..." She paused, then continued, "But that was all so long ago. I doubt he still holds on to it. Even if he does, his resentment would be toward Dad, not the younger generation. Besides, Stephanie is his only daughter. If she genuinely likes you, I believe he'd respect her decision. Don't you think?" Feeling somewhat reassured, Fitz nodded. That does make sense. I'll give it a try. Zara smiled encouragingly. You need more confidence. Plenty of women are lining up to marry you, some with even better backgrounds than Stephanie. There's no reason for you to feel inferior. Fitz laughed lightly. I know, but I still feel a little nervous. Zara replied seriously, that's a mentality problem. A lack of confidence is your real issue. If I ever fall for a man, I'll never feel inferior, even if he's a Middle Eastern prince. She laughed and added, honestly, princes aren't that impressive. I'm not interested in foreign men anyway. Even if a prince stood in front of me, I'd still see him as just another guy. A prince might look powerful, with family assets worth hundreds of billions, but there are so many of them that when you average it out, each one only has about $1 billion. That's pocket change for me. Fitz looked at Zara and chuckled, then said sincerely, sometimes I really wish I could have your attitude. You live so freely. Zara shot back, is that a compliment or an insult? I'm praising you, Fitz said quickly. As the eldest son and grandson, I've always been constrained by grandpa and dad. Over the years, my edges have been worn down. I don't even know how to resist anymore. Unlike you, you can stand up to anyone. Zara shrugged. Different roles, different responsibilities. You're the heir, so you have to be cautious. I can afford to be reckless. Fitz nodded, then asked, by the way, how's your search for the mystery man going? Zara sighed. I've just obtained surveillance footage from several major airports in Japan and I'm reviewing them one by one. At this pace, I'll be lucky to find him by my 30th birthday. I'm still trying to come up with a better plan. She added quickly, oh, and I'll bring the footage to your place later today. You have to help me go through it when you get home. Chapter 1985. After hearing what his sister said, Fitz confidently patted his chest and replied, don't worry, I'll do my best to cooperate with you after we get back. Zara smiled in satisfaction just as 2 men and 2 women entered the main hall. They were Oren's family of 3, along with the second son, Hank. When Stephanie walked in, Fitz immediately felt a wave of nervousness wash over him, and his palms began to sweat. Noticing his discomfort, Zara discreetly nudged him with her finger and shot him an encouraging look. She then stood up at once, smiling brightly, and greeted them warmly. Uncle Oren, Aunt Angie, and Stephanie, hello. I hope we're not disturbing you, and I'd like to wish you a happy new year in advance. After speaking, she promptly took out a long gift box and handed it to Angie, saying, Aunt Angie, this is a New Year's gift for you and Uncle Oren. Seeing that Zara had taken the initiative, Angie smiled kindly and replied, oh, so it's Zara. I haven't seen you in years. You've grown more and more beautiful. Zara responded gracefully, Aunt Angie, you flatter me. If we're talking about beauty, my sister Stephanie is the truly stunning one. Angie chuckled and said, you're too polite, child. Why bring gifts when you're just visiting? Zara smiled and replied, it's nothing extravagant, Aunt Angie, just a painting by Picasso from his lifetime. Angie's expression changed slightly as she said earnestly, Zara, this gift is far too valuable. I really can't accept it. Zara quickly waved her hand and said, please don't be so formal, Aunt Angie. Honestly, it's not worth much. It's just a token of goodwill. Seeing the atmosphere grow awkward, Zara immediately changed the topic and introduced Fitz, who was still standing stiffly beside her. By the way, Aunt Angie and Uncle Oren, this is my brother, Fitz. Stephanie and Fitz should already know each other, right? Stephanie nodded lightly and said, yes, I've met Mr. Banks a few times before. Oren glanced at Fitz and noticed that he resembled Zane quite a bit, which stirred a hint of displeasure in his heart. Still, with a polite smile on his face, he said, to be honest, the Banks family hasn't visited in more than 10 years. I'm curious, what brings the 2 of you here today? Zara quickly explained, Uncle Oren, my brother owns a cosmetics company and plans to expand its brand influence this year. Since he admires Stephanie and knows she's about to start her concert tour, we thought this would be a great opportunity to collaborate and have my brother sponsor Stephanie's concert. Oren was momentarily stunned. He had initially assumed that Zara and Fitz were representing the Banks family to discuss some major inter-family cooperation. He hadn't expected that their purpose was merely to discuss sponsoring a single concert in Oris Hill. Once he realized this, he felt relieved that it wasn't a complicated matter. He waved his hand casually and said, "You can discuss this directly with Stephanie. I generally don't interfere in such things." Zara nodded and immediately turned to Stephanie. "Sister Stephanie, what do you think?" Stephanie, however, showed little interest. She had never entered the entertainment industry for money. Unlike many celebrities who prioritized financial returns when choosing variety shows, endorsements, or projects, Stephanie had always followed her own principles. For many female celebrities, everything revolved around money, how much they could earn from a program, an endorsement, or a role. But Stephanie had never been one of them. Chapter 1986. Some people were willing to sell their bodies and dignity for money, but Stephanie was different. To her, money held little meaning. After reuniting with Charlie, she had already decided that she would eventually leave the entertainment industry altogether. Her plan was to withdraw gradually. Once Charlie resolved his marital situation, she intended to marry him and devote herself to being a wife and mother. Stephanie planned to announce her retirement at the final stop of her concert tour, completely stepping away from music, film, television, and all related entertainment programs. Because of this, Zara's proposal held no attraction for her at all. She spoke frankly, "I'm sorry, Zara, but I don't plan to seek a title sponsor for this concert tour. The promotional materials have already been finalized, and multiple online platforms have begun advertising. At this point, it's too late to add a sponsor's name or change the existing arrangements." Zara immediately responded, "Why not? Sister Stephanie, as long as you agree, we can still make it work, even now." As she spoke, she subtly signaled to Fitz. Fitz seized the opportunity and quickly said, "Miss Stephanie, I'd like to propose something different. We can combine the concert naming rights with a large-scale charitable campaign. If you agree, I can provide a sponsorship fee of $10 million per concert, all of which will be donated to charity in Miss Stephanie's name, specifically to improve living conditions and educational resources for orphans. What do you think?" Stephanie paused, visibly startled. She had originally intended to reject the proposal outright, but Fitz's mention of charity caught her completely off guard. More importantly, the beneficiaries were orphans. That single word struck her deeply. After reuniting with Charlie and learning that he had spent 10 years growing up in an orphanage, Stephanie had felt intense heartache for the hardships he endured throughout his childhood and adolescence. Suffering in adulthood could be considered a form of tempering, but suffering during childhood left scars that were nearly impossible to erase. Childhood was meant to be filled with innocence and happiness, shaping a person's entire life. A happy childhood could bring warmth even decades later, while a painful one could cast a shadow that followed someone forever. Because she loved Charlie, Stephanie had naturally begun to care about other orphans who shared similar experiences. At that moment, she felt a surge of shame and thought to herself, "How stupid of me. I should have thought about doing something meaningful for orphans long ago, instead of needing someone else to remind me." With that thought, she said firmly, "Let's do it, Mr. Banks. Since this is for charity, I don't feel comfortable accepting your money under my name alone. Instead, let's cooperate. For every concert, your cosmetics company will donate $10 million, and I will personally donate another $10 million. Chapter 1987. When Stephanie made her promise, Fitz felt a rush of joy. His gaze immediately shifted to his sister Zara, admiration shining in his eyes. At that moment, Fitz couldn't help but marvel at the brilliance his sister possessed. Although Zara was a few years younger than Fitz, her intellect was far sharper. She had already devised a clever strategy to persuade Stephanie to agree to the naming collaboration under the guise of charity. Zara had carefully analyzed Stephanie's situation. She understood that Stephanie lacked neither wealth nor love nor admirers. For an ordinary man, capturing her attention was extremely difficult. Pursuing her was one thing, but even establishing a working relationship with her was nearly impossible. Thus, Zara concluded that if they wanted to leave a lasting impression on Stephanie, they had to approach her from a different angle. She recalled that Stephanie once had a fiancé chosen by her parents, whose fate remained uncertain. Zara believed that engaging in charitable work for orphans would deeply resonate with Stephanie. After all, a child who had been missing for many years might have died long ago, or might have grown up as an orphan. With this in mind, Zara was confident that Stephanie would be inclined to support a cause dedicated to orphans, especially if the proposal came from her brother. And indeed, her prediction proved correct. Stephanie was completely on board with the idea. Excited, Fitz said, "Miss Banks, let's plan to finalize the contract next year. I'll make sure the payment arrangements are handled directly." Stephanie nodded and replied, "Since each donation is 10 million, there's no need to pay my agency. Before each concert, we'll each donate 10 million to local charities. What do you think, Mr. Banks?" Fitz responded without the slightest hesitation, "That sounds perfect. I have absolutely no objections. We'll follow your lead, Miss Banks." However, Stephanie did harbor a trace of selfishness. Her first concert tour was scheduled for a year later in Orris Hill, a place of great significance to her, since Charlie had lived there for many years. Deep down, she hoped to direct her donations to charities in Orris Hill first. That money could even be used to improve and expand the welfare home where Charlie had grown up. Considering the country's massive population of over 1 billion people, donating directly to the Charity Federation offered no guarantee that the funds would reach Orris Hill. Therefore, she preferred to donate the entire 20 million directly to Orris Hill instead. Unaware of Stephanie's true intentions, Fitz had been closely monitoring her schedule and already knew that her first concert was planned for Orris Hill. Still, remembering his sister's earlier advice, he pretended to be curious and asked, "By the way, Miss Banks, where will your first concert be held next year?" Stephanie answered promptly, "It will be in Orris Hill, on the second day of the second month of the lunar calendar." Smiling, Fitz replied, "Orris Hill is quite close, I can get there in just 2 hours. Since we've established this collaboration, I'll definitely be there to support you, Miss Banks. I'll also personally make a donation to the Orris Hill Charity Foundation." Chapter 1988. Stephanie gave a faint smile and said, "Then I'll thank Mr. Banks on behalf of the Orris Hill orphans." Fitz quickly waved his hand and replied, "Oh no, that's really unnecessary. This was something that needed to be done anyway. Besides, I only donated the money, and it ultimately counts as an offering to Buddha. It was originally meant to cover a sponsorship fee. The thanks should go to you, Miss Banks, not me." Stephanie smiled for reasons unknown and said, "Mr. Banks, since our collaboration is settled, let's wait and see how things develop over the next few years. I still have other matters to attend to, starting with my company." Hearing this, Zara immediately stood up with a smile and said, "Sister Stephanie, please go ahead with your work. We won't take up any more of your time." Stephanie nodded lightly and said, "Then I'll see you both out." She turned and called to the household staff. "Aunt Lace, please escort our guests." A middle-aged maid approached at once and said respectfully, "Please follow me, esteemed guests." Fitz felt a bit reluctant to leave, but he still stood up and said to Stephanie, Orrin, and Angie, "Miss Banks, Uncle Orrin, Angie, we'll take our leave now." Orrin nodded casually. "Take care." Angie smiled politely and added, "We won't walk you out any further. Have a safe journey." Zara quickly added, "Aunt Angie, please visit us whenever you have time." Angie replied warmly, "Of course. If time allows, you're always welcome to visit the mansion." After a few brief pleasantries, the family servant escorted the Banks siblings out. Once they had left, Orrin frowned and muttered, "I can't shake the feeling that the younger generation of the Banks family is behaving strangely." Angie nodded in agreement. "I feel the same way. Something about them seems off." She continued, "It might be connected to what they experienced in Japan recently. I heard that a mysterious person saved them, otherwise, they could have ended up in serious trouble." Orrin sighed and said, "I also heard that Zane was in Japan at the same time. Why didn't he suffer the same fate?" Angie warned him, "Don't speak carelessly. Zane is now a quasi-patriarch of the Banks family. We absolutely cannot afford to provoke him. Loose talk could bring us serious trouble." Oren clenched his teeth and cursed, "That old scoundrel Zane. Everyone in Eastcliff knows he's the most despicable bastard alive. My brother Bruce had countless chances to kill him, but he let him live. Look at the monster he turned into, truly a vile piece of trash." Angie patted him on the back and comforted him. "Once you've recovered, stop dwelling on these things. Our family can't compete with the bank's family right now. Besides, once Charlie returns to Eastcliff, the two of you can settle old scores together." Oren nodded firmly. "You're right. When Charlie comes back and marries your daughter, he'll inherit the entire Wade family. Then we'll see what the bank's family is really capable of." At that moment, Stephanie felt slightly embarrassed and whispered, "Dad, I haven't said anything about marrying Charlie. And don't forget, he's already married." Oren waved his hand decisively. "Don't worry, Daisy. I'm certain Charlie will marry you within 3 years." Startled, Stephanie asked shyly, "Dad, how can you be so sure?" Oren looked at her seriously and said, "Charlie's temperament and conduct are far too similar to your Uncle Wade's. From that alone, I can confidently say he will honor the marriage arrangement his parents made before they passed away. He will marry you." Chapter 1989. Fitz and Zara were making their way back, with Fitz behind the wheel and Zara seated in the passenger seat. It was clear that Fitz was in high spirits, grinning from ear to ear. Noticing his cheerful demeanor, Zara smiled wryly and said, "Brother, I've done this for you, so you have to help me find a benefactor." Without a moment's hesitation, Fitz replied, "Zara, don't worry. You can count on me. Even if it means I have to blindfold myself, I'll help you find your benefactor." Zara nodded, pleased, and remarked, "You have a good heart." At that moment, Fitz let out a sigh. "There's just so much video footage. Only the two of us have seen him, and I can't ask anyone else for assistance. I really wish I had more information. We'll have to figure out when we can go over it all." Zara responded, "Don't worry. I've come up with a general strategy that should save us a lot of time and effort." Curious, Fitz asked, "What's your plan?" "Please tell me." Zara explained, "Even though it's just the two of us who've seen his face, others might not be able to identify him directly from the video. However, they can assist us with a preliminary screening. First, I can ask the staff at banks to help me gather all the footage of female passengers from the airport videos, regardless of age or ethnicity. Then, I'll do the same for the male passengers, collecting clips of all races. Finally, we can filter out the young boys, middle-aged men over 30, and older men. This will leave us with young adult travelers aged 18 to 28. After that, I'll have them crop all the frontal images of the eligible young male travelers from the videos. With this approach, we won't have to endlessly watch the footage ourselves. Hundreds of people can help us look through it. We can have them screen for suitable travelers and take screenshots of their faces. Then we only need to search through those clear images to find the man we're looking for." Excited by the plan, Fitz exclaimed, "Yes. You've got it. Your mind works so quickly. So, instead of staring at the video, we can wait for others to help us cut out the images, and then we'll look for someone who resembles the benefactor." "Exactly," Zara affirmed. "If we find a young traveler in a screenshot who looks like him, we can track down the person who took the screenshot and request the corresponding video. This way, we can combine the video footage to make a more accurate assessment of whether this person is the kind-hearted man we're searching for. If he is, we can trace his movements at the airport through the footage, which will help us identify which flight he took and where he left Japan for. Then we can go straight to that city to find my benefactor." Fitz gave Zara a thumbs up, genuinely impressed. "Brilliant. I'm confident that with this method, we'll uncover his whereabouts in just a few days." Meanwhile, far away in Oris Hill, Charlie was unaware that Zara was getting closer to tracking him down. After gathering gifts with his father-in-law, Jacob, they adhered to their original plan and drove to the largest supermarket nearby to shop for the new year. With the Chinese New Year approaching, the store was bustling with shoppers and cars, creating a lively scene. After waiting in line for more than half an hour, Charlie finally secured a parking spot. Once Jacob and his son-in-law parked the car, They entered the supermarket only to find it packed with shoppers, nearly shoulder to shoulder, and the entire store overwhelmed with activity. Chapter 1990. As if things couldn't get any more challenging, the impending Chinese New Year had led many employees to take their holidays early. Consequently, the supermarket was experiencing a surge in customers, double the usual flow, while the number of staff on duty had significantly decreased. This resulted in widespread shortages throughout the store. There were insufficient salespeople, cleaners, and cashiers. Even the employees assigned to the weighing station were lacking. Shoppers could expect to wait about 10 minutes just to purchase a la carte items. Amid the chaos, Jacob expressed his frustration. "Hey! I really should have gone out earlier to shop so I could relax at home and watch TV instead of being stuck here in this crowd." "I know," Charlie replied with a wry smile. "I wanted to come yesterday, but Mom ended up getting hurt." Jacob scoffed. "Don't get me started on that annoying woman, she just causes trouble all the time." Despite his irritation, Jacob sighed. Honestly, with all the trouble she stirs up, why hasn't she ever faced the law? If only she could accidentally cross paths with the high-voltage part of the legal system and end up in jail for a few years, wouldn't that be something? Surprised, Charlie chuckled. "Dad, if Claire hears you say that, she's going to be devastated." "Hey, I'm just venting to you, promise me you won't tell Claire." Jacob insisted. Charlie nodded. "I get it. Don't worry." With a resigned sigh, Jacob suggested, "Let's stop talking about her and focus on getting the ingredients for our New Year's Eve dinner." "Alright," Charlie agreed. "Let's kick things off in the vegetable section. The first item on the list has to be vegetables. If we don't grab them early, they'll be gone, and we'll be left with the less fresh options." As they discussed their shopping strategy, they made their way to the vegetable area. Although the vegetable section was spacious, the shelves were tightly packed, leaving only narrow aisles that easily became congested with shoppers. While pushing their cart into the section, they suddenly heard someone shout, "You old bat, are you blind? Can't you see I'm mopping the floor? Hurry up and get out of the way." In response, a familiar voice chimed in. An elderly woman retorted in a solemn and aggrieved tone, "Gina, why do you always mop the floor right under my feet? Your mop has gone back and forth over my shoes at least a dozen times." It was Lady Wilson speaking. At that moment, she was wearing a green vest identifying her as a supermarket employee, while clutching a roll of plastic bags for groceries. In front of her stood a stout woman, also clad in a green vest. This was Gina. Holding her mop, Gina seemed to intentionally poke Lady Wilson's feet. Lady Wilson was nearly knocked over multiple times, desperately grasping the edge of a shelf as she pleaded, "Gina, I admit I made mistakes in the past. Please, considering my age, can you just let it go?" Gina shot her a disdainful glare and retorted, "Oh, so now you're begging for mercy? Weren't you acting all high and mighty before? Weren't you the one scolding me?" Lady Wilson remained silent, not daring to respond. Gina continued to mock her, "I used to think of you as Lady Wilson, living the high life in a luxury car and a villa. But look at you now. You're just an old hag. You may look like a tough cookie, but underneath it all, you're nothing but a shell. You looked down on me yesterday, and here you are, working in the same supermarket as me." Chapter 1991. The sounds coming from the other side instantly caught Jacob's attention. He turned to his mother, struck silent by the sight before him. After a brief pause, he asked Charlie, "Good son-in-law, is that my mother? I can't be mistaken, can I?" Charlie offered a faint smile. "Dad, you're correct, it's definitely her." Jacob exclaimed, "She? Why is she wearing a staff vest? Did she come here to work?" Charlie nodded. "It appears that way." Jacob was taken aback. "That doesn't make sense. Didn't Donald invest in the Wilson family? They even bought them a villa in Thompson first. Surely, they should be living comfortably now." At that moment, Charlie spoke up. "I heard that Donald has already pulled out his investment." "Divestment?" Jacob was shocked. This Donald is incredibly unreliable. Why would he withdraw his funds? With his wealth, he should hardly care about investing in the Wilson Group. Charlie shrugged and smiled. We can't say for sure. Just then, Gina appeared, using her mop to poke at Lady Wilson's ankle a few times, expressing her annoyance. You old woman, get out of the way. You're always messing up my mopping. Lady Wilson replied, Gina, the supermarket manager gave me this job to help customers with plastic bags. If I don't do it well, I'll be fired. I'm begging you, please don't make this harder for me, okay? Gina scoffed. I used to respect you, but you should know what you've done. You brought this upon yourself. With that, she sneered and continued, listen here, old woman, don't underestimate me just because I'm from a rural background. I'm tougher than you think. I can handle being hit, but I won't tolerate your insults. Afterward, she put the mop aside and intentionally bumped into Lady Wilson as she walked by, sending her crashing against the shelf and causing her to wince in pain. However, after that encounter, Gina didn't bother with her again and moved on to mop another part of the floor. Lady Wilson stood there, growing more upset as she reflected on the situation. In her heart, she thought, having been raised in the Wilson family for so many years, I've never been humiliated like this. How outrageous! What's worse is that at my age, I'm reduced to doing this undignified temp work. All these years in the Wilson family, and I've never even washed a single teacup. Now I'm here in a supermarket, pulling plastic bags for customers. But what other choice do I have? If I don't do this, I won't even be able to feed myself. Working here temporarily, I can at least earn $100 a day and manage to have lunch. Without this job, neither Hannah nor Gina would be able to help me with anything to eat. Wouldn't that mean I'd starve? Lost in these thoughts, Lady Wilson felt so overwhelmed that she stood by the shelves, quietly sobbing. Seeing this, Jacob felt a pang of sympathy and turned to Charlie. Charlie, I can't help but feel sorry for your grandmother. She wouldn't be working in a place like this unless it was absolutely necessary. Chapter 1992. Charlie inquired, Dad, are you up to something? Charlie was uncertain about Jacob's current mood, but he sensed that Jacob was struggling with something. He thought that perhaps Jacob was trying to assist Lady Wilson in some way. With a heavy sigh, Jacob replied, witnessing my own mother endure such a life and engage in that kind of work breaks my heart. As her son, I can't just stand by and do nothing. Suddenly, Jacob shifted his tone, covering his eyes as he declared, but wait, I didn't see anything. It was all just an illusion. After that, he quickly turned to Charlie. Good son-in-law, let's go pick up some fish, shrimp, meat, and eggs first. For the vegetables, we can find them at another supermarket. What do you think? Charlie immediately understood his implication, smiled, and replied, absolutely, Dad. I agree with you, the produce here isn't very fresh. Let's check for some larger Boston lobsters first. If we find them, let's get a few for home. Jacob beamed, pointing at Charlie. You really get me. Come on, let's go grab some lobster. Deep down, Jacob did feel sympathy for his mother's situation. However, he wasn't naive. He had come to understand Lady Wilson's true nature over the years. When she dared to confront her own family, it was hardly an act of kindness, nor did it reflect any sense of loyalty or blood ties. This was his first real opportunity to take action. Later, when the Wilson family fell on hard times, she resorted to many distasteful measures just to maintain her lifestyle in Thompson First Villa. As the company worked on developing new products and services, Jacob hoped that reality would impart a valuable lesson to old Lady Wilson. He had no intention of offering any assistance to Lady Wilson until she showed genuine remorse. This wasn't merely about time, it was about understanding one another. The cashier area was bustling, with long lines snaking in front of every register. Charlie and Jacob waited patiently for over 20 minutes before they finally reached a cashier. As they approached the checkout, Jacob hurried to the shopping cart and said to Charlie, good son-in-law, grab something from the back for the cashier to scan while I handle the bags up front. Charlie nodded in agreement. Jacob stepped into the checkout lane first. Before Charlie could fetch the items, he turned to the cashier and said, could I please get 4 plastic bags, the largest ones? The cashier nodded. The large bags are 50 cents each. He then reached into the drawer beside him, pulled out 4 sizable plastic bags, and handed them to Jacob. As Jacob took the bags, he glanced up and exclaimed, "Oh my, sister-in-law? What are you doing here? Ha! Is that really you?" Standing at the cash register was Hannah, wearing a supermarket employee vest, equally shocked to see Jacob. She never expected to run into Jacob while working as a temporary cashier. Her gaze shifted to the young man rummaging through the shopping cart. Wasn't that Charlie, the wasteful son-in-law of the Wilson family? As Hannah noticed Charlie pulling out a thick plastic bag filled with several exquisite lobsters, her heart sank. "I've been starving all day, working here since morning without even a glimpse of lunch from management, while they get to buy such a huge bag of lobsters. How is it that the disparity in living standards between our families, both residing in Thompson First, is so vast?" Chapter 1993. During this time, Charlie spotted Hannah. Seeing her in a green supermarket vest, he felt an unexpected wave of emotions wash over him. It reminded him of when Hannah had worked tirelessly at the black coal kiln. He wondered if the black coal kiln had ever returned her work clothes from that time. He couldn't help but recall how Hannah had appeared in those heavy black coal kiln overalls. At this moment, Hannah was struggling. She harbored a deep-seated resentment toward Charlie, a bitterness that was hard to ignore. It was Charlie who had thwarted her plans when she set a trap for Elaine. That was just the beginning of her grievances. The most painful memory was of Charlie donating all her hard-earned money to charity and sending her to the black coal kiln. Thinking back to her time in the black coal kiln made Hannah's heart ache with despair. It was as if she could feel the anger bubbling up inside her. That wretched Charlie. He's the reason I spent so many days in that dreadful place. After all I sacrificed, I ended up with nothing but a body riddled with disease and a child. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be in this miserable state. The more she recalled her past, the more her resentment toward Charlie intensified. When she noticed Charlie approaching to make a purchase, she immediately put on a cold expression and declared, "Please change the cashier, I'm suspending service here." Charlie responded with a calm smile, "Auntie, isn't this a little unfair? We've waited in line for so long, and many customers have checked out before us. Why should service be suspended just for us?" Frustrated, Hannah replied, "I deserve a break. Can't I suspend service if I want to? Do you own this supermarket? You're just whining to me. I'm not giving you anything today. You can take your business elsewhere, but not with me." Jacob, feeling irritated, chimed in, "Sister-in-law, that's a bit much. We're the customers here, customers are always right. You're supposed to be serving us, so why are you taking this out on us?" Upon hearing Jacob say she should serve him, Hannah became even more incensed and retorted loudly, "Jacob, no matter what, I am your sister-in-law. There's a saying that an elder sister-in-law is like a mother, and a younger brother-in-law is like a son. Do you have no respect for your elders? Get out of my way and stop bothering me." In a fit of anger, Jacob shot back, "An elder sister-in-law is like a mother? You're just a foul-mouthed woman, and you think you can talk to me like that?" In response, Hannah slammed the broom she was holding and shouted, "Jacob, who are you calling foul-mouthed?" Jacob smirked. "Says you, what? Is that not true?" Hannah seethed. You. If you say one more word, I'll scratch that old face of yours to bits." Just then, a man in full uniform shouted angrily, "Station 8, what is going on? Why are you yelling at customers?" Hannah froze in shock. Looking up, she realized it was the manager of the cashier department. Fearful of offending the supermarket's higher-ups and losing her job, she quickly plastered on a smile and explained, "I'm sorry, manager. I was just joking around with my relatives." She pointed at Jacob and added, "This is Jacob, my husband's brother. I hope you don't mind." Upon hearing this, the manager's expression softened slightly. Over the years, many people had come and gone in the bustling world of retail. Chapter 1994. Today, Hannah had arrived in search of a job, hoping to secure a casual position that paid $100 a day. After a few discussions, the manager learned that Hannah had a college background and suggested that she try her hand at cashiering. The cashier role was not demanding, and it offered $150 a day, $50 more than the odd jobs. Naturally, Hannah accepted the offer with enthusiasm. If all went well, the manager was happy to keep Hannah on staff. However, if she were to curse at customers while at the register, there would be no chance of her staying. Fortunately, Hannah had only been joking with her family, so there was no serious cause for concern. The manager took a moment to advise her, it's best to maintain a positive reputation at work. Remember, joking with your relatives at the workplace isn't appropriate, okay? Hannah nodded eagerly, responding, don't worry, I promise it won't happen again. The manager acknowledged her and started to leave. At that moment, Jacob interjected, excuse me, are you the manager here? The manager turned back, answering, yes, that's me. Jacob replied coldly, I want to file a complaint against you. The manager was taken aback. You're complaining about me? What for? Jacob pointed at Hannah, his voice filled with anger. Your employee has physically attacked me and verbally abused me for no reason, and you just stand by and do nothing. This is a clear failure on your part. Is this how you manage your team? The manager looked confused. Aren't you two related? Jacob spat out, absolutely not. Who's related to her? The manager was even more perplexed and pointed at Hannah. But she said you were. Jacob sneered. You trust whatever she says? It seems you truly are neglecting your responsibilities. I thought you two were family. How else can you explain her behavior? The manager's heart raced, and he quickly asked, Sir, you're not related to Hannah at all? With his head held high, Jacob declared, Not at all. I don't even know her. My son-in-law and I came to buy something, waited in line for ages, and then she claimed she was on break and told us to go to a different line. Isn't that deliberately making it difficult for us? You heard that, didn't you? The manager suddenly panicked and turned to Hannah, demanding, What is going on? If you don't clarify this, you're in big trouble. Hannah was equally frightened. Seeing Jacob and Charlie, she felt intense anger and hastily dismissed Jacob without thinking. She never expected Jacob would escalate the issue to his superior. Wasn't that jeopardizing her own job? In a rush, she pleaded, Jacob, please talk to the manager. We're family. I'm your sister-in-law. If I've made a mistake, I'll apologize. Just don't jeopardize my job, I'm begging you. Jacob shot her a glare and said to the manager, Look at this person, she keeps claiming to be family. I don't even know her. One moment she's saying she's my sister-in-law, the next she's not. How would you handle it if you were in my shoes? Hannah quickly interjected, Manager. Please don't listen to him. I'm genuinely his sister-in-law. Jacob looked at the manager, patted him on the shoulder, and asked with an impassive expression, If I claim right now that I'm really your father, would you believe me? Chapter 1995. The manager of the supermarket's cashier department overheard the commotion and quickly pieced everything together in his mind. So, not only has this Hannah been rude to customers, but she even caused a scene in front of me while they were watching, how outrageous. Keeping someone like her on the team could lead to countless offended customers, and I might end up facing the consequences. No way. She needs to be let go immediately. With these thoughts racing through his mind, the manager spoke firmly and without hesitation. Hannah, I initially brought you on as a temporary worker, but I never expected you to treat customers so poorly. I think it's best if you hand over the cash register keys, remove your vest right now, and leave the premises. Hannah was devastated. She thought to herself, I came in early this morning, eager to find a job, and I've spent the entire morning exhausted. It was almost time for the lunch shift, and I was looking forward to a hearty meal in the staff cafeteria, but instead, I'm being fired by the manager. Now, not only do I miss out on lunch, but I also lose my chance to earn $150 today. Overwhelmed by despair, Hannah pleaded, Manager. I beg you, please don't fire me. I need this job to support my family. I'm truly sorry for my mistakes. Please show some mercy and forgive me this time. I promise I won't let it happen again." The manager frowned and replied, "Hannah, you're quite skilled at fabricating stories. One moment you say the customer is your brother-in-law, and the next you claim your husband and son are incapacitated at home. What's the deal here?" Hannah cried out, "Manager, I'm not making anything up, I swear." Turning to Jacob, she pleaded, "Jacob, please tell the manager the truth and advocate for me. Your brother, Harold, and the others are all relying on me." Jacob smirked and replied, "You're quite the character, aren't you? First, I'm your brother-in-law, and now you're saying I have a brother? This is getting ridiculous." Furious, the manager shouted, "Hannah, if you don't leave this instant, I'll have security escort you out." Realizing there was no turning back, Hannah shot Jacob a glare filled with resentment before addressing the manager. "If that's the case, could you at least settle my pay for the morning? I worked half a day, how about giving me $80 or $100? The manager snapped back, "I see you really have no shame. You've caused all this trouble and still have the audacity to ask for money? Get out. Just get out of here." Frustrated, Hannah retorted, "If you don't pay me, then I'm not leaving." At that moment, the manager signaled a few security guards and ordered, "Take this woman's vest off and escort her out immediately." Chapter 1996. Hannah crumpled to the ground, shouting, "What right do you have to drag me out? Why can't you pay me according to my salary?" Yet, despite her frantic cries, no one showed her any compassion or sympathy. As Hannah was pulled out of the supermarket, the manager, looking guilty, turned to Charlie and Jacob and said, "I'm truly sorry about this. I made a mistake in hiring the wrong person, and I apologize to both of you." Jacob nodded in response and remarked, "The main fault doesn't lie with you, but you do share some responsibility. This is a classic case of mismanagement." With a sigh, Jacob added, "In the end, it just shows that your judgment isn't quite up to par." The manager nodded repeatedly, clearly embarrassed. "You're absolutely right. I'll make sure to improve in the future." Jacob placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, speaking like a mentor to a novice, "Just work on sharpening your skills." Yes, absolutely," the manager replied, nodding eagerly before calling over a cashier who had just returned from dinner. "Jonathan, come quickly and process the payment for these 2 customers. They've been kept waiting for too long." Jonathan hurried over, logged into the computer, and assisted Charlie and Jacob with their payment. This incident marked a first in the company's history, highlighting their commitment to customer service. After being unceremoniously removed from the supermarket, Hannah hadn't eaten in hours and was on the brink of fainting from hunger, feeling lightheaded and weak. With no energy left for a temporary job, she made her way home on foot. Once back at the Thompson First Villa, Hannah sank onto the sofa, too exhausted to even lift her eyelids. "Why are you back?" someone from her family asked. Hannah muttered angrily, "Forget it. Ugh. This is so infuriating." Wendy quickly inquired, "Mom, what happened?" With red-rimmed eyes, Hannah choked out her story, "I went out with your grandmother to search for a job. It turns out supermarkets are hiring a lot of temporary workers, offering daily wages. While we were there, they assigned your grandmother to help customers in the vegetables section, and I was set to be a cashier. But then..." Hannah's voice broke as she continued, "Who would have thought I'd run into Jacob and Charlie, those 2 jerks? They've ruined my chance at a job." Wendy clenched her teeth in anger. "They've gone too far. How can they treat people like this?" Wendy then asked urgently, "Mom, are you going to get paid for that half day? If so, could you give me some of it? I can buy a few steamed buns and cook 2 dishes to bring home." At this moment, Wendy's eyes filled with tears as she added, "Dad and my brother have been crying in bed from hunger. It's so heartbreaking." Hearing this, Hannah wailed and beat her chest in despair, "It's all because of that jerk Jacob. I got kicked out by the manager and worked all morning without earning a single penny." Chapter 1997. Hannah suddenly realized that her current life, despite its hardships, wasn't as dire as her past in the dark coal mine. As tears streamed down her face, she reminisced about her time in the black coal kiln, lamenting, "Back then, even though the conditions were tough, at least I was guaranteed enough food each day while working under that overseer. Not only did I get to eat my fill, but I also had minimal daily work responsibilities. Plus, I could shout at Linda and her family, which had its own appeal, she mused. And, well, that overseer, while not the most attractive or cleanest, was surprisingly competent. He offered experiences I had never encountered before. With these thoughts swirling in her mind, Hannah let out a deep sigh and turned to Wendy, who was sitting next to her, saying, "Wendy, what kind of life is this for our family? Every day feels like a struggle, some money disappears, a company goes under, and here I am, borrowing to live in someone else's villa, with nothing to eat. When will this nightmare ever end?" Wendy, fighting back her own tears, managed to respond, "Mom, I don't understand either. Our family used to be so stable, I was close to Brother Gerald, and we were on the verge of getting married. Then, out of nowhere, everything fell apart." Hannah sighed and replied, "We really need to visit the temple and pray. If this continues, I fear my life will spiral completely out of control." Wendy pondered for a moment before saying, "Mom, I can't help but think that our family's misfortunes began right after Grandma's last birthday celebration." "Really?" Hannah asked, taken aback. "Which birthday are you referring to?" Wendy replied, "The most recent one. At her birthday banquet, Brother Gerald gifted Grandma a Hattin jade Buddha, and Wendell sent her a jade Buddha medallion." Hannah nodded in recognition. "I remember now, Wendell's emerald Buddha medallion was quite valuable, worth around 3 to 4 million. As she recalled this, Hannah expressed her regret. "What a shame. That valuable emerald medallion, along with Grandma's antique jewelry, was taken by the bank." Wendy continued, "At that birthday party, Charlie even dared to ask Grandma for money to help a Mrs. Lewis at that orphanage. Do you remember?" "Oh, I remember," Hannah said, clenching her teeth in frustration. "That audacious Charlie. To ask for money during the birthday banquet was beyond bold. I was actually pleased when Grandma scolded him and he had to leave in shame." Wendy shook her head, saying, "That's not the point I'm trying to make. I just feel that our family has been plagued by bad luck since that night." "Really?" Hannah frowned, intrigued. "What was the first unfortunate event that occurred?" Wendy quickly recounted, "The very next day after the birthday feast. I went to the Grand group with Brother Gerald to deliver invitations to Doris, the vice chairman, and to build connections. That's when I bumped into Charlie outside the building." "Charlie?" Hannah inquired. "What was he doing there?" Wendy explained, "He claimed he was applying for a job at the Grand group. Gerald and I laughed at him, and then something strange happened right after that." "What strange thing?" Hannah asked, her curiosity piqued. Chapter 1998. Wendy recounted, "I went upstairs with Brother Gerald to visit Doris, but she didn't notice us. I heard that Grand group refused to associate with people of our caliber, labeling us as low-quality trash. To make matters worse, Brother Gerald was attacked by Grand group's security guards." She continued, "After that, the Grand group ended their partnership with Gerald's family, which infuriated his father and uncle. From that point on, Gerald and I began to drift apart. Interestingly, Gerald's uncle, Mr. White, maintained a connection with Charlie and even gifted him the large villa next door. Furthermore, the contract Claire had negotiated with Grand group was also cancelled due to my grandmother's broken promises. Ever since, our family's fortunes have been on a downward spiral. Wendell pursued Claire, but his family went bankrupt and mysteriously vanished. Then there's Jason Grant from the Grant family, who also chased after Claire. He and his father disappeared, and now the Grant family is offering a hefty reward for any information about them. Kenneth Wilson came to our aid, but unfortunately, he too was assaulted by Charlie. He lost his dignity and returned to Eastcliff in shame. Later, Kenneth handed me over to Jeffrey Weaver. Jeffrey, who harbored disdain for Charlie, also vanished along with his father. Now, their family business is run by Jeffrey's illegitimate son. I've even heard rumors that they are digging for ginseng at the base of Gollum Mountain, but I can't confirm if that's true." Hannah, feeling famished, suddenly sat up, slammed her hand on the coffee table, and shouted in fury, "That son of a bitch Charlie. He's the one who sent me to the black coal mine. Damn it. I believe he's behind all of this. Wendy quickly asked, Mom, do you think Charlie possesses some hidden power? How else could he exert such influence that no one dares to confront him? Power? Hannah scoffed, that orphan doesn't have any power. He's not even worthy of the term. Wendy countered, then how can he command such respect from so many prominent figures? It suggests he must have some skills we're unaware of. Hannah clenched her teeth and retorted, the only thing he's good at is charming people. Wendy shook her head, I truly believe he has genuine abilities. Otherwise, how could he fool so many influential people? She then added earnestly, it's possible he has some knowledge of feng shui. Maybe he's been using it to sabotage us without our knowledge, which is why our family's luck keeps diminishing. Hannah's eyes widened, and she exclaimed, now that you mention it, that does sound plausible. He must have set up some feng shui arrangement to ensure our misfortunes while he thrives. Wendy nodded vigorously, I think that's about 80% accurate. How else could he, a mere son-in-law, gain such sudden power? Mom, we need to take action. Hannah sighed, what can we do? We can hardly afford to eat right now. If we want to confront Charlie and his family, we need some kind of support. Wendy quickly clarified, I'm not suggesting we confront Charlie, Mom. We've never gone after him, and it's even less feasible now. With eagerness, Wendy said, Mom, Claire is my cousin, and Charlie is my cousin-in-law. We should proactively extend goodwill towards them and ask for their assistance. If all else fails, I can even become Charlie's third mistress. Chapter 1999. Hannah felt a wave of anxiety wash over her when she heard Wendy mention her willingness to become Charlie's mistress. She exclaimed, Wendy! Have you lost your mind? Being a mistress is not good for you, especially not for someone like him. How is he even worthy of you? Wendy sighed and replied softly, Mom, I genuinely believe that Charlie is a decent person. He's handsome, responsible, and overall better than Gerald. What nonsense are you spouting? Hannah shot back, glaring at her. Charlie is nothing but a filthy hangman. He's not even worth lifting your shoes. With a bitter smile, Wendy said, what have I been doing for nearly a year now? I once soared like a phoenix, but now I feel like I've fallen straight down, worse than a village free-range chicken. Overwhelmed with emotion, Wendy sobbed, Mom, just look at me. My reputation is in tatters. How can any man even glance my way? Seeing Wendy's tear-streaked face, Hannah hugged her tightly, trying to console her. My dear daughter, we can't think like that. What does reputation even mean? Living well is what truly matters. She continued, besides, you haven't been with that many men. Gerald, Kenneth Wilson, and Jeffrey Weaver, that's only 3. You're in your 20s, many girls have slept with more guys by the time they graduate college, and they don't worry about their reputations. Wendy shook her head, tears flowing. Mom, that's different. College dating is in a closed environment, you can build whatever you want for 4 years, and once you graduate, who really knows? But my situation is different. When I was with Gerald, everyone in Oris Hill knew. And then with Kenneth Wilson, it was also common knowledge. I've been living with this bad reputation ever since, and everyone knows I was involved with a man older than my father, who could possibly respect me now? Not to mention how Kenneth treated me like merchandise, passing me directly to Jeffrey. That's something no one in Oris Hill even knows about. Hannah felt a deep pain and choked back tears. My dear daughter, I don't hold you responsible for this. I blame myself, your father, and your grandmother. If we hadn't been so focused on money, we wouldn't have pushed you into this situation. In a moment of frustration, she slapped her own face, saying angrily, I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm not human. Wendy quickly grabbed her hand, crying, Mom, I don't blame you. I made those choices myself. I couldn't resist the temptation of money and thought I could gain glory and wealth. It's not your fault, please don't be so hard on yourself. Hannah cried out in despair, what kind of sin do you think I've committed? How did things turn out like this? Wendy nodded vigorously. Right now, I can't take it anymore. Honestly, as long as I can live a peaceful and stable life, I'd be willing to be Charlie's mistress or even be labeled a fornicating girl for him. At that moment, Wendy cried out, I find myself envying Claire. Initially, everyone thought she ruined her life by marrying a loser. But who could have guessed that this so-called loser would treat her well for 4 years? Moreover, no matter how much the world ridiculed him, he has remained devoted to Claire. What's truly remarkable is how this waste has become Master Wade, a figure respected by all in Oris Hill's high society. Isn't that real potential? Now, Charlie truly seems like the most reliable man. As for Gerald, even with his wealth, what does it matter? In times of crisis, he's still a disaster waiting to happen. After hearing Wendy's words, Hannah felt a surge of emotion. You're right. Claire may seem foolish, but she's actually quite wise. Chapter 2000. While others have been contemplating various options, sifting through countless choices, they often end up with something disappointing. In support of Claire, who doesn't engage in the competition or selective process, the old man arranged for her to marry someone quite undesirable. Who would have imagined that this undesirable choice could one day transform into something valuable? Wendy nodded thoughtfully and said earnestly, if there's an opportunity, I need to get closer to Charlie. Even if he doesn't look down on me, it would still be beneficial for our family. At a time like this, we can't rely on anyone outside. Charlie is our best option. Hannah sighed and replied, do what you wish, Mom. You just got a bit carried away and hungrier. Help me return home so I can rest for a while. Let's wait for Grandma to finish her shift, and then we can eat. Lady Wilson spent her day pulling plastic bags for customers at the supermarket. These are the typical plastic bags you find in stores, and they generate static electricity when you tug on them. Despite the mundane task, old Lady Wilson felt quite satisfied. At noon, she enjoyed a complimentary lunch from the supermarket's employee cafeteria. It was the most delightful meal she'd had in ages. The food wasn't extraordinary, in fact, it was quite bland and not greasy at all. But after so long without a proper meal, it felt like a feast. At moments like these, even a simple bowl of white rice felt like a divine gift, and adding a meat or vegetable dish only heightened her joy. It was not just about the food but also about the experience itself. The old woman found herself chuckling at the situation. After a busy day, as 5 p.m. approached, the foreman came over, handed her $100, and said, Lady, you did an excellent job today. Will you come back tomorrow? It's New Year's Eve, and we'll be very short-staffed at noon. If you come back, I can pay you $200 for the day. Really? Lady Wilson exclaimed, her face lighting up as she carefully tucked the $100 away. Then I will definitely return tomorrow. The foreman nodded with approval, great. Just make sure to rest up first, tomorrow we start at 9. Lady Wilson agreed excitedly but then suddenly remembered something and asked, Foreman, what time does the cafeteria open in the afternoon? The foreman replied, dinner is served at 6 p.m. Lady Wilson quickly inquired, then, can I go to the cafeteria for another meal? The foreman hesitated, explaining, well, employees receive 1 meal coupon per day, and you already used yours at noon. Feeling a bit disheartened, old Lady Wilson nodded, all right then, I'll come back tomorrow. Seeing her disappointed expression, the foreman didn't want to turn her away. How about this, lady? If you work overtime until 7, I'll speak with the manager and get you a meal coupon. You can eat in the cafeteria before heading home. Does that sound good? Lady Wilson was overjoyed at the prospect. 2 more hours of pulling plastic bags for another meal. Of course, I'll agree. With excitement, she exclaimed, thank you, foreman. You're the best.